say he's done something that goes beyond the pale, he will shake his head and give this answer without fail. A hoax, he says it's all a hoax. When at a press conference or with misspelled keystrokes, he says he tells no lies and that he never jokes. Confronting with the truth, he'll say it's all a hoax. A modern Don Quixote, he hates the windmills, claiming to protect the birds and whales he says they kill. But don't believe that story, it's really just a shill. He just did not want to see them wild golfing on Scottish hills. A hoax, he said it's all a hoax. When at a press conference or with misspelled keystrokes, changing a storm path with black marker strokes. Confronted with the truth, to say it's all a hoax. Casting mail-in ballots is something that he's done. Now he wants to ban them for each and every one. He claims it's for integrity in each election, but he won't believe the results unless it's him that's won. A hoax, he says it's all a hoax. When at a press conference or with misspelled keystrokes, they'll fool you with distractions like real sugar in Cokes. Confronting with the truth, you'll say it's all a hoax. He promised to release all the Epstein files that caused all the MAGA base to react with smiles. But how long has he put it off? It sure has been a while, and now he's calling this a hoax, protecting pedophiles. A hoax, he says it's all a hoax. When at a press conference or with misspelled keystrokes, he'll keep on gaslighting up until he croaks. Confronted with the truth, he'll say it's all a hoax.
Trump piled debt, trillions tall. Promised Mexico would fund that wall. Praised dictators, said they're strong. Had Joe done it, they'd say he's wrong. Had Biden done it, MAGA would flip. Had Biden done it, whole numbers would slip. Had Biden done it, that scream foul play. But Trump did it, so it must be okay. Goes through crises, storms and war. Called soldiers losers who died in war. Hired his kids to run D.C. If it was Hunter, they'd scream treachery. Had Biden done it, MAGA would flip. Had Biden done it, the numbers would slip. Had Biden done it, Fox News would say I made. But Trump did it, so it must be okay. Love Kim Jong-un, he wrote love letters that take the guns first, lose those rights forever. Signed you spending bills with glee. Had Joe done that, it'd be tyranny. Had Biden done it, MAGA would flip. Had Biden done it, whole numbers would slip. Had Biden done it, they shout up today. But Trump did it, so it must be okay. Kept secret files, countless untold. Said Putin's word was good as gold. Invited the Taliban to come to U.S. soil. If Joe had done that, they'd all recoil. Had Biden done it, MAGA would flip. Had Biden done it, whole numbers would slip. Had Biden done it, they'd want him to pay. But Trump did it, so it must be okay. Double standards loud and clear. Rules for Trump, but not for peers. What they call treason, if Joe's the name, is patriotism when Donald's to blame. Had Biden done it, MAGA would flip. Had Biden done it, whole numbers would slip. Had Biden
This just in. A sudden spike in logic levels across the city. Citizens report seeing a man with glasses and a podcast mic. We go now live to Liberal Dan. Yo, who you gonna call when Nazi writing's on the wall? Call your man Liberal Dan, cause you know we got a plan. The right wing talking shit, but he ain't about to quit. He'll take his proton pack and zap your logic cause it's whack. So who you gonna call when the writing's on the wall? Call your man Liberal Dan, and the rhetoric will fall.
It's being reported that Liberal Dan is setting up what appears to be some sort of straw man containment field.
He's calling out your lies with his mic, he'll vaporize. Cross the streams in your dreams, bitch, you know that he's too wise. You're like Slimer talking crap, but you walked into his trap. Yo, it's more than entertainment, it's misinformation contained. So who you gonna call when the writing's on the wall? Call your man Liberal Dan, and the rhetoric will fall. The Statue of Liberty, the writing you can see. So bring the huddled masses, it's a war of the classes. While Trump may think he's Vigo, Dan can cut through that ego. He's got the facts to prove him wrong, got that logic like Egon. Your logic is a ghost, cause you know this chick is toast. When you follow MTG, it's conspiracy, you'll see. There's no need to taser, he's got wit like Occam's razor. Liberal Dan cuts those lies with his Jewish-based laser.
It's unbelievable. Liberal Dan just used the literal dog whistle to lure a large group of internet trolls into what is being called a self-collapsing rhetoric singularity. In all my years of reporting, I've never seen anything like this.
So don't call to be a heckler, you ain't no Judge Rexler. He'll bust you like scolary, cause your logic's looking hairy. Right-wing callers think they're cool, but they sounding just like Zool. You the dog, he the man, and yo, his name is Liberal Dan. So who you gonna call when the writing's on the wall? Call your man Liberal Dan, and the rhetoric will fall. Liberal Dan, Liberal Dan, Liberal
Proclaimed king, a groper in chief, stealing our country, a crooked orange thief. For patriots who are poorly educated, wearing red hats and also unvaccinated. Liberal Dan will see us through. It's the best show that you're not listening to. So when you hear the call, animals unite. Liberal Dan Radio, talk from the left, that's right. A failing media that's barely treading water. They're too inept to fight this new world order. Corporate pigs are at the trough, hear the squeals. The swine won't bite the hands that feeds them meals. But Liberal Dan will see us flow. It's the best show that you're not listening to. So when you hear the call, animals unite. Liberal Dan Radio, talk from the left, that's right. A leftist voice on air, exposing MAGA treason, breaking through their lies with facts, logic, and reason. Unmasking hypocrisy, the truth will be our guide. Call out their lies, justice is on our side. Cause Liberal Dan will see us through. It's the best show that you're not listening to. So when you hear the call, animals unite. Liberal Dan Radio, talk from the left, that's right. Liberal Dan Radio, talk from the left, that's right.
And welcome back to Liberal Dan Radio, talk from the left, that's right. This is your host, Dan Zimmerman, coming at you live from New Orleans, Louisiana. We may open up the phone lines in a little bit, but to join the conversation, make sure to just leave your comments in the chat, either at liberaldanradio.com, which is the YouTube channel, or twitch.liberaldanradio.com, which is the Twitch channel, obviously. Remember to like, share, subscribe, all the other good stuff. Al Gore needs more rhythm, so you got to help the algorithm out. Do whatever it is you can. Comment on new videos, share new videos, like the new videos, etc. Anything you do to help the content grow is going to help the show grow as well. Those are other ways to help out the show. You got Venmo, Liberal Dan on Venmo. You could go to liberaldan.com and click the Buy Me a Cider button, or go to buymeacoffee.com/liberaldanradio. Support the show that way. Become a Patreon member, patreon.com/liberaldan or patreon.liberaldan.com. Either way also get you there as well. Bunch of stuff to talk about today. Shouts out to Jennifer. Al Gore does need more rhythm, poor thing. I finally got Agent Opus to create a freaking dancing Al Gore. It's only like a 4-second clip, but still, as old Donnie Boy says,
it is what it is.
Thank you, Donald. We also got Orville over at the Twitch chat as well, over on YouTube. Currently, we got Bill, Jeff from just north of Uranus, Jackie, Belfast Bob's in the house, Steve from across the pond.
It's no Scottish, it's crap.
We got Rick. Good to see you, Rick. Thank you for joining. Anybody else, we will try and say hello. I think I said hello, Jackie. If I didn't, hello, Jackie. I think we will get to more people as they stroll on into the chat. We got 11 viewers, 7 likes currently. Make sure to smash that like button, and then the patriarchy. Got to make sure to do all that good stuff. Let's see. Let's give some people, I guess, a little bit more time to meander on in. Let's see. Life updates. As you know, if you follow Liberal Dan Radio, my old employer is now the way of the dodo and is bankrupt, or is going or declaring bankruptcy, and is now in bankruptcy court. I don't know exactly how much I could share about the whole thing, but I mean, I'm sure bankruptcy proceedings are public record, I guess, because you can always go look at Pacer or whatever and find out all that stuff. So I got 2 letters in the mail yesterday. One letter in the mail basically said that the old company, or the corporation, I guess, wanted to use some of its existing funds to, go process, payments that were due or whatever, and make sure, go into the lockbox, so to speak, to actually get more incoming payments from people that are due payments, and have some other actions that need to be done to be able to grant people access to these systems, and they want to be able to hire contract workers to do that. And I'm like, you know what, if it's going to give you in the net run more money to be able to pay out what you owe people, cool, that's fine, I don't care. Let them do it. And of course, I got the other letter that I got yesterday said that the expedited hearing where that would take place was March 12th. So I don't know how the hearing went. I'm assuming they got it, but still, like, way to be timely on your information, guys. I guess, it happens. And as old Donnie Boy says,
it is what it is.
Thank you, Donald. So there's that. We got the meeting of the creditors tomorrow. This is an interesting saga because I've never been a creditor to somebody declaring bankruptcy. So that's an interesting thing. So we will see how that goes tomorrow. And I don't think I have to be there. Actually, I know I don't have to be there, but I want to watch it just to see. I want to be able to see what's going on with it. Why is that going off right now? I just had a weird thing going off on an ad on one of my videos, and it just randomly stopped as well. So anyway, weird. Let's continue. Hey, Molly, good to see you as well. Who else did I miss as I was kind of like nefarious enough? Good to see you as well over here. I think we got everything. I think I said hello still to everybody. Let's talk about... I guess we could just 18 viewers. I guess we could start chatting. I mean, it's not that big of a deal. God damn it, I did the wrong thing again. I hate when that happens. I'll fix that in a second. Let's throw this over here as well. So I think I've sung this song before. It's or the lyrics from this Brad Paisley song, It was a funny song to listen to when the person at the piano bar on the cruise ship who introduced us to this song, was singing it, especially the first time that people would hear it. I actually have video of people responding to it because they weren't expecting the lyrics to the song to go as they went. So I'll do it all a cappella. There's no piano in front of me, and I'm not doing that. So, but the song is first date, first kiss, first taste of lovin'. You were my first cousin. We got in big trouble. Your dad, my uncle, 'cause you were my first cousin. I see you across the room and smell your sweet perfume at all these family reunions. In the back seat of that Regal, what we did was illegal, 'cause you were my first cousin. Now the love of my life will never be my wife, 'cause you'll always be my first, and I'll always be your first, and our children will be second cousins. So why am I singing that song? Because apparently Brad Paisley singing that song, it doesn't matter if he would live in Florida, because he absolutely could make his wife, make his first cousin his wife. Because according to The Hill, the Florida bill to ban marrying a first cousin failed to pass the Florida Senate. State lawmakers voted down HB 733, which proposed that incestuous marriages would not be recognized for any purpose in the state of Florida after July 1st, 2026. The bill had proposed that a man may not marry any woman to whom he is related by lineal consanguinity. Now, that's a very big word for Floridians. I'm very impressed that the Floridians would be able to come up with the word lineal, or the term lineal consanguinity. But you can't marry any woman who you've related to by lineal consanguinity, nor his sister, nor his aunt, nor his niece, while a woman cannot marry a man whom she is related by lineal consanguinity, nor her brother, nor her uncle, nor her nephew. State Representative Dean Black told Florida Action News Jacksonville that he expects another vote on the same issue sometime in the future. There are plenty of people here and plenty of people you can find to be your lifelong partner without looking to your first cousin, Black said. He didn't sing it, though. Florida is one of more of a dozen states where marrying your first cousin is still legal, but most of the United States has banned such marriages. So, yeah. Crazy, right? I mean, it is. I mean, imagine maybe the people in the Panhandle. Maybe they are. The ones who are behind the bills failing or whatever. I mean, it was the Senate, not the House. Like, I don't know, the House part of the legislature, I think, unanimously voted for it, but the Senate apparently had some problem, and I don't know what. I couldn't seem to find the actual text because the link in that article seemed to be wrong. But anyway. Yeah, so if I guess it doesn't matter, because even if you hurried up and rushed to marry your first cousin before this bill got passed, they still won't recognize it if this language continues after the fact. So, but here's the thing. Here's the weird thing that I think might be coming to play is maybe there are a few first cousin relationships or marriages that are currently in existence in Florida. And this is the nefariousness that I think is going on here. So it's not just a funny ha-ha headline story that we're talking about to make fun of Florida man and I guess Florida woman at this point, even though it is very funny to make fun of the cousin fuckers, I guess. But that being said, if they're not just saying that they are not going to allow or process the marriage between first cousins and all the other folks who are listed in that text. They are not going to recognize the existing marriages of people who have been already married. Now, let me ask you something. Think about this for a second before I spoil it for you. Why might they be doing this? They're probably going to do this because I'm sure there's going to be people who are already married, who are already first cousins, who are going to sue the state if such a law passes to say, look, you can't eliminate my marriage because we were already married. You can't unring that bell. You can't unring the bell. So we're already married. Why are you going to stop us from being married? So what I think they're trying to do here is they're trying to take something that probably has pretty wide and universal appeal, like, banning first cousin marriage seems to be a reasonable thing to do because of, genetic, abnormalities that can happen between closely related people. So you're probably going to take this as a way to get rid of or annul en masse all of these marriages that they don't like. And they're going to try and do it. And then if that works, and if it passes muster all the way up the court system because somebody challenges it, they're then going to try and do what? They're going to try and ban gay marriage again. And then they're going to use the ruling and piggyback off of that ruling to try and get them to not only be able to ban gay marriage going further, but to annul en masse all the existing gay marriages in the state of Florida. And then they'll use that as a model across the nation to try and make sure that gay people who are currently married can have their marriages, their contracts just removed by the state or nullified by the state simply because they are a bunch of hateful, bigoted people who are in the Republican Party. So I'm not going to have a problem if they want to ban cousins from getting married. That's fine. But my worry here is that they're going to use that to disenfranchise and nullify the marriages of all of these same-sex marriages that are currently legal because of Obergefell v. Hodges. Because as we discussed on the last show, even when conservatives are trying to do something, you can't trust that there's no nefarious purpose behind it. You can't trust that, the side effects of what happens here are not going to affect other people. Right? So that's my concern with this piece of legislation, with what Florida's doing. Again, if I could trust that Republicans are forthright and honest and had no ulterior motives, fine. But I don't believe that's the case. I don't believe that's the case one bit, and I believe that and watch, if that happens, and it goes it might take months or years for me to be proven right on this, but if it happens, you'll remember where you heard it here first, right? So anyway, church is in every game. Imagine if Biden had voted no on banning ancestral marriage.
Had Biden done it, MAGA would flip. Had Biden done it, whole numbers would slip. Had Biden done it, that scream foul play. But Trump did it, so it must be okay.
Real Bill P goes, fun fact, West Virginia banned cousin marriage in 1955. Of course, West Virginia also, the Republicans in the West Virginia legislature also recently, within the past few years, refused to ban marriage to a child. So while good for them on banning cousin marriage, but, they still want you to be able to marry a kid, which is gross. Hey, Jolie, good to see you. I didn't see if Aaron popped in as I was doing that. What's up, Chad? Good to see you, Chad. I don't think they're not deer. I don't think there's a Dearborn version of Florida, Chad. And that's kind of bigoted there. Please don't be like that. Orb Rumor, good to see you. Suzanne, good to see you. Tim, good to see you as well. I think I've gotten everybody new who's popped in. If I've missed you, I apologize. It's an even trade-off. What is an even trade-off? I don't know what you're talking about. The no marriage ban, the no marrying cousins, but you can marry the kids. Yeah, I don't know. I guess back then you could marry both, right? So how is it bigoted to speak the truth? Because you're trying. First of all, they're trying to say that people. You're trying to suggest that people who are Muslim marry, their cousins, and you're basically, and even if there are some who do so, it doesn't mean that you would assign that to all Muslims. That's what we've talked about here a lot on Liberal Dan Radio, Talk from the Left. That's right. We said you don't take what a small group of a group does and then attribute it to the entirety of that group. There are some gross bris or circumcision practices going on in a small Jewish community in New York City. You don't take that and say, well, all Jews do that. There is a small, whatever group. If you're a part of a group and you have no choice of being in that group, and a small member of that group does something, you don't blame the entire group for it, right? So A fallacy of composition, as Atrocious Video Game says, very adequately stated. Atrocious Video Game, unfortunately, I mean, I would question whether or not, like, the people in Florida or whatever can understand such a thing of the fallacy of composition. But then again, they did use that that little, you know, big phrase that was in the text. But, you know, legalese, I guess, is maybe they worded it that way so they couldn't have the people who were reading it would be like, well, I don't understand what that means, so I'm not going to worry about it because I don't understand what that means one bit whatsoever. Anyway, so next topic, the Lorena Bobbitt School of Circumcision. Oy. Was it John Wayne Bobbitt? Uncut was the name of his adult movie that came up with. I called into a Jeff Carrere show today, and the things that I wanted to talk about never actually got spoken of. Why? Because other things got spoken of when, and it always happens. I want to call in and talk about a particular point, and two things happened. We'll talk about the first thing first, and then we'll talk about the second thing later. So there's this guy, Doug, who's known as the conservative Crawgator, or the Crawgator, whatever. Apparently he has a Twitter account. I can't find it for the life of me, because I'd love to be able to engage with him on there just to troll the shit out of him or whatever. But that being said, you know, he again was, he hates Muslims, so it's a good segue, I guess, from Chad's comment about, you know, the Muslims or whatever. He doesn't believe that Islam should exist. He whatever, and he says all sorts of stuff about Muslims almost every time he calls into the show. And here's one of the things that he said on the show today, this morning.
There's no God that mandates you got to hate dogs, you can't eat pork, and you have to treat the women like slaves virtually. There's no God that's dictating all this.
So wait, there's no God that dictates that you can't eat pork, according to this genius. Yes, there is. The God of the Jewish people, aka the God that you as a Christian also are supposed to be worshiping, and also the God that the Muslims worshiping, although none of them will admit that they all worship the same God. So clearly states in one of the 613 commandments in the laws pertaining to keeping kosher that you specifically cannot eat pork. You cannot eat any mammal that doesn't chew its cud and have split hooves. You cannot do it. So clearly there's an example of him. Now, I then was on hold when I heard this, and I'm just sitting there aghast, like, how the hell does he not know this? And so I will go on to explain how wrong he is. And he starts trying to explain to me that it's health reasons. Like, I know it's health reasons. Most of the laws as it pertains to keeping kosher stem from a being healthy type of idea instead of just simply being ritualistic. It's like, there's reasons why in a very hot place that you might not want to have pork that had been sitting there for a while. There's reasons why you might not want to have shellfish as well in such areas. So there are definitely health reasons as to why one might not want to eat these things. And instead of, trying to explain it to people in a way that, oh, it doesn't make sense for me to eat these things because it's dangerous, they basically says, no, you're going to be punished by God if you don't follow these things, because some people just need that to be able to act right or whatever. And anyway, so then his response, which is why I'm playing this overall, is this.
But a lot of things have a practical reason, and that's just part of the whole equation. So don't pick on one little thing like that.
Keeping kosher.
So don't pick on one little thing. These rules that are in Judaism, for keeping kosher have practical reasons, as we just discussed. The practical reason is that. So instead of saying, you know what, Liberal Dan, I was wrong. You are correct. I made an incorrect statement. Instead, he's like, well, don't pick on that small thing, and he pivoted the argument. And that's why I'm playing this, because it's another example of conservatives not being able to take responsibility for their own words. If you catch a conservative in a lie, they will double down on that lie. They will triple down on that lie. They will quadruple down on that lie. They will make sure, even if you say that they didn't, even if it wasn't a lie, even if they just said something that wasn't untrue, but that wasn't true, but they believed it to be true, they will still deflect, ignore and want to move on and change the topic because they don't want to ever admit that they're ever wrong. Because admitting if you're wrong, admitting that you're wrong, for a conservative is seen to be an even worse sin than, you know, grabbing somebody by the hoo-ha without their consent. They will never, ever do that. And who's their hero of that? Well, it's old Donald Trump, our president of these United States, who will also never admit to a mistake, never admit that they were wrong, and he will double down on wrongness all the live long day, especially as it pertains to, you know, he apparently claimed to speak to one president, and he didn't say which president it was, and he said, oh, one of them agrees with me on Iran, and then the media went and asked every single living president and said, hey, do y'all agree with him on Iran? And every single one of them said, nope, sorry, we don't agree with you one bit. So is he basically thinking that he spoke to himself because he's the 45th president and the 47th president? Is he actually trying to say that, you know, the 45th president agrees with him? Is that what he's really trying to do? I wouldn't put it past him. I wouldn't be surprised if that's what he really, really thought. So anyway, let's go on and continue with more stuff. I'm not doing it this time. I trusted it every game. We got to wait a little bit between the two. So, Real Bill P, I love pork skins and barbecue sauce. I mean, cracklins are good. I like cracklins, whatever. Let's see. Steve, I once tried eating pork on a Friday. I felt really dodgy and couldn't, but now I'm not saying I'm Jesus, but... Well, I mean, if you could walk from here, over from Scotland to here in the United States, that might prove it, because you'd have to be able to walk on water, but that's a long walk even for a person, right? Anyway, so let's go ahead and plop on down here to this video, because no, we're not watching Game of Thrones.
Was rejected by the Republicans.
So this is Representative Cesar from Texas and a confrontation that he had with Cornyn.
Rudy is making a point, as the senator does, that there was a bill to push ICE funding forward without reforms and TSA in it. And we said, no, we're not going to pass this ICE funding until we get reforms. Let's just fund TSA. And Senator Cornyn and the Republicans said no. They could go tomorrow to Washington, D.C. right now. You can go straight to Washington, D.C. and join with me to fully fund TSA. Senator Cornyn should put his money where his mouth is. Hey, Senator. Senator, I was hoping that we
Why
could...
don't you tell your Democrats to vote to pay these poor
Let's
people?
do it. Let's do it.
No,
Why don't
you do it.
No, we
I've
don't
voted
you don't have
for
to
it
yell at
time
me.
and time
You don't
again.
yell at me. Let's go. Let's talk for a second, Senator.
No,
There's a
I'm-
bipartisan bill to fund just the TSA. Can we do that together?
Not acceptable.
Not acceptable to
You
fund
want to
just
fund?
the TSA.
How about all the terrorist attacks like we see down on 6th Street?
Let's-
You want those to continue? These people are keeping us safe. Tell the
Let's-
Democrats to vote for funding the DHS.
So here's the thing. He said Cornyn and Republicans are trying to put the blame on the Democrats for TSA not being funded. But the Democrats, and actually some Republicans, also put up a standalone bill to fund TSA. And what did Cornyn say? He says that's not acceptable because he wants to continue to allow ICE to be funded in the manner it's funded without any restrictions on it. Now, I don't expect that we would have any bill that would pass in the current legislature, in the current Congress, both houses, and with this president, that would be signed into law that would actually eradicate ICE and create something new to take its place that would actually operate in a decent way that it should be operating and not the way that ICE had been operating. I don't expect that to happen. But, you know, the fact that the Republicans are not willing to vote for a standalone bill to fund the TSA proves that the Republicans don't give a shit about the fact that TSA has gone unfunded, that TSA employees are working without pay for over a month, and the reason you're seeing super extreme long lines at these airports, especially I've heard it's really bad here in New Orleans too, and the reason that you're seeing all that is because of the fact that they have to go find other jobs, so they're calling into this job to be able to go work another job so they can get a paycheck because they have to be able to support their family. It's stupid that people cannot get paid. That should be just an overall change of how government works. If you have existing employees who are doing work for you, regardless of the shutdown, if they have to work, then they should have to be paid. End of story. Nothing about that. There should be nothing controversial about that whatsoever. Now, you can pay somebody, and, if you can't fund, it's like, for example, with ICE, if you can't have them, traveling all over the country, deploying them here, deploying there, putting them up, whatever. If you don't have the funds to cover their deployments, that's a completely other thing. But you should still be required to pay them if they're doing work. And even if they're not doing work, you should, if they're basically forced, sent home, you should either say, hey, you're gonna get laid off, and then deal with those issues, because we all saw what happens when the Trump administration laid off a whole bunch of other people prematurely and then ended up having to go scramble to get those people back. Or you basically allow them to get paid while you work out the other stuff. But the people should continue to get paid because people have bills to pay. But the Republicans do not give a rat's ass about the bills that people have to pay. Let's see, actually. We want to do this. We want to do this. There we go. So let's go ahead. Let's see. What's got? The church did a game. Before we move on to the next thing, my hot take is 100 years from now, meat substitutes are going to be so widely available that people are going to say, wow, that meat-eating stuff was actually super barbaric. I include pigs foremost among that, as they arguably are smarter than dogs. And we obviously don't eat dogs. Although, according to Pulp Fiction, pigs are not, they're filthy animals and not very smart because they eat and root and shit or whatever. Of course, the other side of the coin is, but bacon tastes good, pork chops taste good, and then sewer rat might taste like pumpkin pie, but I wouldn't know because I wouldn't eat the filthy motherfucker. Anyway, let's continue, shall we? Just to give me an excuse to do another quote. Let's head on down to this alternate page. Oh, this is kind of small, so let's go ahead and do that. The Director of National Intelligence, National Counter-Terrorism Center, from Joe Kent. President Trump, after much reflection, I have decided to resign from my position as National Director of the National Counterterrorism Center effective today. I cannot, in good conscience, support the ongoing war in Iran. Iran posed no imminent threat to our nation, and it is clear that we started this war due to pressure from Israel and its powerful American lobby. I support the values and foreign policies that you campaigned on in 2016, 2020, 2024, which you enacted in your first term. Until June of 2025, you understood that the wars in the Middle East were a trap that robbed America of precious lives of our patriots and depleted the wealth and prosperity of our nation. In your first administration, you understood better than any modern president, bullshit, how to decisively apply military power without getting us drawn into never-ending wars, bullshit. You demonstrated this by killing Soleimani and defeating ISIS. Early in this administration, high-ranking Israeli officials and influential members of the American media deployed a misinformation campaign that wholly undermined your America First platform and sowed of pro-war sentiments to encourage a war with Iran. This echo chamber was used to deceive you into believing that Iran posed an imminent threat to the United States and that you should strike now. There was a clear path to swift victory. This was a lie, and is the same tactics the Israeli used to draw us into the disastrous Iraq war that cost our nation lives, thousands, blah, 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 blah. Again, so if you're watching this on TikTok and whatever, I'm just reading from the thing. I'm not actually stating my views. I'm reading from the thing. As a veteran who deployed to combat 11 times, and as a Gold Star husband who lost my beloved wife Shannon in a war manufactured by Israel, I cannot support sending the next generation to fight and die in a war that serves no benefit to the American people nor justifies the cost of American lives. I pray you will reflect upon what you're doing in Iran and who you're doing it for. The time for bold action is now. You can reverse course and chart a new path, or you can allow us to slip further into decline and chaos. You hold the cards. It was an honor to serve in your administration and to serve our great nation. Now, why am I reading this? Because, it's interesting to see, some of the MAGA folks just falling apart. The MAGA coalition just kind of crumbling as we see. We see the loss of MTG. We see, Ben Shapiro and, what's-her-face, Candace Owens sparring back and forth. Tucker Carlson's in that mix or whatever. You have all these people who are formerly all MAGA who are now sparring with each other, and it's great to see it. But one of the reasons I wanted to talk about this is from a more of a 30,000 point of view. I expect that, conservatives are going to say that. Then there are conservatives. I had another interesting caller who called into Jeff Carrera's program. I didn't interact with him or whatever, but this guy basically said that on two different conservative websites, like on Gab and Truth Social, on Gab he's seen as a Zionist, and on Truth Social he's seen as a pro-Zionist for almost the same reasons, because they can't keep their arguments straight or whatever. I'm not saying that he's inconsistent. I'm saying that conservatives tend to not be able to, because you have the anti-Semites who don't want to help the Jews, and then they see by helping Israel, you're helping the Jews, and then you see that the pro-Israel anti-Semites who are still anti-Semites, because again they think that because if you're helping Israel, you're helping the Jews, but by conflating Israel and Jews, you're both groups are being anti-Semitic, right? But here's the thing, and here's why a lot of times when people will hear, and I've said this many times on the program, that you can absolutely be against the actions of Israel without being anti-Semitic. Hey, I would say that I'm not anti-Semitic, and I'm against the actions of Israel as they pertain to what they've done, even before 10/7, as it pertains to many of the Palestinian problems that are going on. I do put the blame on Hamas where Hamas deserves blame, but I do believe that Israel has been responsible for a lot of wrongs, especially Benjamin Netanyahu. Benjamin Netanyahu should be dragged in front of the Hague. But here's why many Jewish people will read something like this, or see something like this, or hear words that are similar to this, where it's just talking about Israel, and not saying like the government of Israel, but just Israel, because they know that there are plenty of anti-Semites out there who will use Israel as a shield to shield their anti-Semitism. So they would be like, okay, well, here's something I could say, and I can say it in such a way where people can't really say that I'm being anti-Semitic because I'm just talking badly about Israel. But then, the people who they do want to hear, they'll be like, oh, we know what he's talking about. We know that he's being anti-Semitic on top of him being anti-Israel, because he's just using Israel as code. Because, as I've said before, again, many times on the show, there are plenty of opportunities to speak out against the actions of the Israeli government without being anti-Semitic. It's just, unfortunately, there are a lot of people who don't know how to do it right. So they will either say things unknowingly, unwittingly, that they think sound fine, but in reality, either grasp onto old tropes that have been used against us for years and years and years, or they will be used by some people who are anti-Semitic and be like, here, say this, say this, say this. And they'll say those things, and then they'll be helping to perpetuate anti-Semitism by being pushed by the people who are actually anti-Semitic, even though the intent of the people who are saying those things, as being prodded on to do so, those people are not intending to be anti-Semitic, because they don't think they're being anti-Semitic, because they don't know well enough, which is why I feel it's very necessary to talk about this thing more often than many others may do. But even then, every time I hear criticism of Israel, I gotta pay like real close attention to what's being said, because again, even though it doesn't have to be anti-Semitic, we always are on the lookout. We always have to have, as Jewish people, we have to have our heads on swivels. We have to make sure that the anti-Semitism can't sneak up on us, and we have to keep watching the people who are saying these things, because again, I'm not going to sit here and say that this letter in and of itself is an example of anti-Semitism, but I can see where anti-Semites can be like, especially when they go from Israel and its powerful American lobby. Like, if it would just say pressure from the Israeli government, maybe less harmful. But when it says Israel and its powerful American lobby, it at least makes many Jewish peoples just, perk up a bit and be like, this person might need to be looked at, because what are they really trying to say? Are they really only being critical of the Israeli government and the powerful, forces behind it, like the very few, or are they really just, using this as a shield to shield their anti-Semitism? So it's what you got to be careful of. And again, I'm sure there are going to be many people who say bullshit, in response to this video, who, will try and disagree with something, or won't have listened to what I said, or maybe they'll just find a small clip and be like, oh, well, it didn't include the entirety of it, so here you go. But because I'm not a big fan of AIPAC or whatever, AIPAC, and I'm not either. But again, there are people who will use AIPAC as a method to attack Jews instead of just attacking the conservatives behind AIPAC. Like if they would word it differently, maybe if they would frame it, the conservative PAC, AIPAC, is harmful to America, I'd be like, okay, you're attacking the conservative nature of it. But when you just leave it alone, I question when I'm not questioning you specifically, Easy. I'm just saying that people will hear the criticism of AIPAC and it's like, now we have to keep our spidey sense up a little bit more, because are you really talking about that sort of thing? Are you really talking just about the PAC and just about the governmental interests or of the people like Netanyahu or whatever, or are you trying to make a broader statement? So, which is why you have to pick apart these statements very carefully. And I try not to throw around the term anti-Semitism too much, because you only want to call it out when it happens, but history of the world says that it happens a lot, and that if we don't call it out immediately, very, very bad things can happen. So, but again, just to put another word on it, like when you hear certain names, you should know that when they bring up those names, they really mean Jews. And I know you're listening to House Sparks. I think House Sparks has talked about this as well. When people complain about George Soros, they're complaining about Jews. When they complain about the Rothschilds, they're complaining about Jews. When they're complaining about globalists, they're really complaining about Jews. Now, look, is it to the point where they say when they complain about the Adelsons? Hell, even then, even though Adelson's widow is still a terrible person who is, funding Donald Trump's campaign and making sure, you should put like something in front of it, I would say. Like, even if somebody who was not Jewish was trying to complain about the actions of Sheldon Adelson's wife, I don't remember her first name, I'm sorry, his widow, I guess. If somebody were to bring her up and say, it's the Adelson money, even if you just said like the conservative Adelson's money, you would put some people's minds at ease that you have a problem with them because they're conservative, not because of their last name. So, Miriam Adelson, thank you very much. Now, I really didn't want to know it, but thank you. So when people complain about, if people were to complain about Miriam, and of course, conservatives aren't really going to complain much about Miriam Adelson. Some might, but she supported Donald Trump, so therefore many of the conservatives aren't going to go pick on her, because why do it when you have George Soros, right? Why do it when you already have the Rothschilds? You have all those well-known names. I've never gotten a paycheck from George Soros. Please, I'd love to. Hey, George, if you're out there, support Liberal Dan Radio, talk from the left, that's right. But, in reality, when people say Soros, they mean Jews. When people say Rothschilds, they mean Jews. When people say globalists, they mean Jews, because, like Tom Lehrer says, everybody hates us. So, anyway, speaking of Jews, speaking of us Jews, I'm gonna record this one, I think. I can't believe that I'm actually saying this. I can't believe that I actually did this. I can't believe that I actually had to do this. Because one of the other things that I heard when I was listening to Jeff Crouer's show was criticism of Ted Cruz. And we're gonna, instead of playing that one, we're gonna play from this show. This is an example of one of many shows that are out there that are talking about this comment from Ted Cruz.
Keeps on giving, and I live in Texas, and supposedly he's my senator, but he says Christ is king as.
Wait, supposedly he's your senator? If you live in Texas, he's your senator. Like, I don't like Bill Cassidy or John Kennedy, but both of them are in fact my senators. So if you live in Texas, Ted Cruz is in fact your senator. Let's see what Ted Cruz had to say and his response to it.
Christ is king is anti-Semitic. Perhaps, I don't know why, but maybe he should stop calling himself a Christian if that's going to be his take, because Christ is in fact king. He is in fact king. If people don't like it, if they get offended by it, so what?
Although it is being used online in a way that is meant to say, screw you, Jew. It is being used in a context very directly to say, I hate Jews, and that's almost an online code word.
Instead of worrying about what trolls are saying on the internet, because that's what this is. We're talking about trolls here. But I've seen it. And unfortunately, you have a Christian essentially denying that Christ is king.
And that is absolutely not what he is doing. Again, I cannot believe here, on Liberal Dan Radio, talk from the left, that's right, that I am sitting here and I am defending Ted Cruz. Because here's the thing. Every single video clip that I've seen of this, with the exception of this one, starts at however. They are disingenuous. They are purposely misleading you. Now look, if it causes Ted Cruz to lose, good. I don't care. I don't want Ted Cruz to win another term. Of course, he's not up for election this time, but I don't want Ted Cruz to be a senator for these United States. But still, I am going to be honest about how I cover people who I dislike. And these people are not being honest about what he says. Because let's see what he says right before the however.
You just asked. And I said, I'm really troubled by how the phrase Christ is king is being used. Look, I agree with the statement Christ is king. Although it is being used online in a way that is meant...
I'm sorry, he said however. He said although. I said he said however. I said he said although. But notice, it started at they all started at the although, and they skipped the part right before it where he said, again, let's listen to it again.
Just asked. And I said, I'm really troubled by how the phrase Christ is king is being used. Look, I agree with the statement Christ is king.
He says, I agree with the statement Christ is king.
Although it is being used online in a way that is meant to say, screw you, Jew. It is being used in a context very directly to say, I hate Jews, and that's almost an online code word. Christ is king is, I hate the Jew.
Is that your view, or why do you say that?
Because you see the people who are saying it, and they're saying it in that context. They're saying Jews are horrible, good, like they're attacking Jews, and they end with Christ is king to make it sound like somehow there's a biblical basis for attacking Jews. Look, Jesus was a Jew. And by the way, the twisted theology that says Jews are Christ killers, and that's been used to justify anti-Semitism, to justify persecution and murder. Look, as I read the Gospels, Jesus went to the cross willingly. He made the choice to go to the cross, and it was not the Jews who killed Jesus. It was me. It was you. Look, Jesus died for our sins.
All right, so I'm not going to get into the proselytizing part of this, but still, for any of these creators to start at the, although, or the however, or the but, or whatever it is he started out with, for all of these people to start with that and ignore the words he said just beforehand, but just before the although, when he literally said that I believe Christ is king. He said he believes it. So for them to say, why does he not believe it? They're not listening to what he's saying. And again, I can't believe I'm sitting here defending frickin' Ted Cruz. But what he's saying is things that I've seen. These people will not go on all sorts of creators, websites or, social media channels or whatever. They're not targeting every single person and saying Christ is king, Christ is king, Christ is king. These people are specifically targeting Jewish creators and will be like, Christ is king, Christ is king. I'm like, why are you telling me this? Like, I don't, I am Jewish. I'm not interested in hearing this. Why not interact with the video or interact with my content in a way that's, dealing with the actual content of the video? But no, they come into the video and they say, oh, Christ is king, as a way, as Ted Cruz said, as a way to say, F you, Jew. Because that's what their intent is. And he's rightly, stop clocks are right twice a day, right? He's rightly calling these shitheads out, these anti-Semites out, because this is how we get harassed as Jewish people all the time. And it's not just Christian anti-Semites that do it. there are plenty of other people who will make comments. I mean, look, there are some other ways that they do it as well. They'll do things like say, you know, if I make a video about like me making potato latkes during Hanukkah or something like that. If I'm making a video about me making potato latkes, or that my wife made me potato latkes, or whoever made me potato latkes and how delicious they are, they'll come into the video and be like, Merry Christmas. And then you'll complain and you'll say, well, that's being anti-Semitic. Like, why is it anti-Semitic? I'm just saying Merry Christmas. No, you're targeting a Jewish person's page with a video that has nothing to do with it. And you're specifically saying Merry Christmas, which should not be deemed as a harmful thing. When anybody, if you don't know that I'm Jewish and you wish me a Merry Christmas, I'm not upset. I don't get angry about it. I don't get upset because you didn't think to say Happy Holidays instead. I mean, I wish more people would say Happy. I appreciate Happy Holidays because you're acknowledging the fact that it's not just Christians celebrating during that season. But I'm not going. If you're actually legitimately wishing me happiness during the holiday season, I'm not going to begrudge you for it. Now, but if you specifically know I'm Jewish and you still wish me Merry Christmas, then I'm going to be like, maybe. But it's even not just the Christian folks that are doing it. There are people who, if I'm a Jewish creator, obviously, and I make content that had nothing to do, if I'm not talking about like the whole issue with the Palestinians and them, the war crimes being committed against the Palestinians, and if I don't have a video that's about that particular thing, even though I do have videos like on TikTok and on YouTube that will say there are war crimes being perpetuated by the Israeli government against the Palestinian people. They will come into some other video where they happen to know that I'm Jewish and they'll be like, Free Palestine. Well, okay, but I agree that there should be a separate Palestinian state, and I believe that they should have their own rights to self-governance. I agree the fact that the Israeli government shouldn't be ruling over the Palestinian people, but you're still going to tell me Free Palestine. Why? Not because, you believe in that, and you're not doing it on all these other videos that are made by non-Jews. You're just specifically targeting Jews. And as such, you're being anti-Semitic with it. Oh, but it's so harmless. It's just a harmless statement. I'm just speaking out in support of the Palestinian people. No, you're using your support of your supposed support of the Palestinian people to attack somebody who's Jewish, which would tell me that A, you're anti-Semitic, and B, you don't really care about the Palestinian people because you're using them as a tool, which is what has happened to the Palestinian people since the 40s. The Palestinian people have been used as a tool of anti-Semitism for decades. Because, just to go back in history, I have a video on this on the channel on liberaldanradio.com, but when you had the war that took place in the 40s, the Israeli, when they created the two states, and then all of the Arab nations attacked Israel, and Israel defended itself properly, it wasn't Israel that seized Gaza. It wasn't Israel that seized the West Bank. Egypt took Gaza and Jordan took the West Bank. And instead of incorporating those people into their societies, they left them in refugee camps. And they used the Palestinian people as a tool to attack the Jewish state, to attack Israel, to attack Jews. They said, oh, look, it's their fault. It's these people's fault that the Palestinian people are living in these refugee camps. No. The Palestinian people have been used by those other nations and abused by those other nations just so they can attack Israel. Again, has Israel done wrong? Abso-fucking-lutely. We've talked about it all the time on this show. But, the Palestinian people for decades have been used and abused to justify anti-Semitism, to justify attacks against Jewish people. Because clearly, look at the Hamas Charter. Hamas Charter was founded by they want to ethnically cleanse every Jewish person from the region, from the river to the sea, as they say. That's why From the River to the Sea is anti-Semitic as well, because they took that phrase and they put it and used it as something to call for the eradication and the ethnic cleansing and the genocide of Jews from that entire area. So, and anytime I have videos on that too. And just go look it up. I have a whole series on the whole issue between Israel and the Palestinians and Israel and Hamas. But it's absolutely cringeworthy to watch people try and feign support for the Palestinian people when they're clearly only doing it to attack Jewish people, to attack Jewish creators. But it's the same thing that Ted Cruz is talking about. To circle back to the whole Ted Cruz thing, people online are using their own religion as a shield to attack Jewish people. And they want to question his Christianity. I would say right then and there. I mean, look. I mean, his capitulating to Donald Trump when Donald Trump was shitty to him, and his basically becoming a Donald Trump cuck, has, speaks volumes about Ted Cruz's integrity. You don't shit talk my family, and I'm not going to sit there. You couldn't pay me enough money to shit talk my family and then have me support you. That would never happen, not one bit. If I was a popular senator and lost my popularity because of that, fuck it, I lose my popularity because of it, because I'm not going to sit here and allow anybody to attack my family and then just be bought off because it's politically expedient for me to do so. My family is more important than political expedience. But he is being more of a Christian than all of these other people, especially, these other people, want to look at your these people want the 10 Commandments to be posted in school buildings. What's one of the 10 Commandments? Thou shalt not bear false witness. Don't lie. And these people, by selectively showing the video starting at although and leaving out the part where he actually says he believes that Christ is king, are being absolutely dishonest. They are bearing false witness. And they're violating the rules of their own religion. They're hypocritically violating the same set of 10 Commandments that they want to post for everybody else's kids to read, because that's what conservatives are all about. Conservatives hate when government tells them what to do, but they want to use government to tell other people what to do. If you want your kids to learn about the 10 Commandments, you should absolutely teach your kids about the 10 Commandments. You should have no right, no authority to use government to force the 10 Commandments on anybody else, on anybody else's kids. Oh, what's wrong with the 10 Commandments? There should be nothing wrong with the majority of the 10 Commandments at least, but if you're an atheist in school or you have a different set of religious beliefs, you shouldn't have to have several of those there in front of your face. Because again, they are not doing it because they are acting in their faith. They're doing it because they're using their faith as a weapon to attack other people. And that's not a good person doing that. Good people don't use their faith to attack other people. Good people use their faith to help people. And maybe anybody who's watching this who has a problem with what Ted Cruz is saying on this particular issue, or has a problem with what I'm saying this, maybe look inwardly a bit. And maybe go talk to your pastor, your minister, your preacher, or what have you. Go talk to them and ask them, should my religion be used to help people, or should my religion be used as a cudgel to attack people? And if your minister, priest, preacher, whatever says the latter and not the former, then maybe you need to find yourself a new preacher. Simple as that. Well, that went longer than I expected. I think I almost swallowed a fly. I don't know why, but I didn't. But it was something in my drink, and I spit it right out. So sorry for having to see me spit out a drink or whatever. Let's see. Let's get to the questions here. Tristan, if you game, why are you making me agree with the Zodiac Killer? Hilarious. I hate Ted. Jesus was a peaceful, radical, nonviolent revolutionary. Hung out with lipers, hookers, blah, 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 blah. Yes, yes, yes. I almost ran up against the Twitch character limit. Nice. Other than that, I have no opinion. Easy E Network. Would you support a segregated Jerusalem? Here's the thing. I don't know how you have a segregated Jerusalem, because if you are going to support people's religious rights and the right to practice your own religion in a peaceful way, you have religious holy sites for all of the three big monotheistic religions all in one spot. So I don't know how you segregate that and make it separate cities for separate people and still allow people to visit their holy sites. Now, I mean, it happened during, before Israel actually took the West Bank. Half of Jerusalem was controlled by Jordan, and Jews had no access to the Western Wall. So, the fact that Jewish people were prohibited from seeing their most holy site is absurd, and just shows that the people who were running at the time were not good people. But of course, the people who are running it now are also not good people. So, lots of bad leadership over there, over in the Levant. So, let's see. Everybody forgets the Palestinian Christians. 20% of Palestine population was Christian. That is true. But, the Christians over here don't give a shit about that, because all they see is, because they're Arabs, so don't care about that. Or maybe they're not even Arabs, but they just don't give a shit, because the majority of them are Muslims, so they're just going to paint them with broad brushes, because that's what conservatives like to do. They like to paint with broad brushes. See, Belfast Bob, I've seen the worst that religion can do and the best. Believe what you're trying to believe, but don't force on others and separate church and state. Exactly. Steve, some are more equal than others. So he got you. He goes, access their holy sites, but they don't really intermingle too much. Not hard segregation like we had in the U.S. But still, like, there are some people who have said, well, maybe just make Jerusalem like a international city, and where everybody has access and everybody, controls whatever. Then you allow ultimately, at the end of the day, I think one single state would be the ideal, where you have one single secular democratic state that protects the rights of every single person in the state, and no religious person can sit here and try and use that government to discriminate against others. But you see how well that happens here in America, right? But currently, there's so much bad blood between both sides. If the Palestinians created their own government and the Jewish people created their own government and had a two-state solution, that's probably, you'd have to show that that you have a capability of living in peace as neighbors without having the conservative shitheads who run Hamas and the conservative shitheads who run the Israeli government trying to use each other as excuses to go commit acts of violence. You'd have to have that happening for enough of a long time for people to be like, oh, remember back then when we hate each other? Wasn't that stupid? Let's come together for our own good. And then we can become a better whole, where the whole is better than the sum of its parts, by uniting together in a nice single Levantine country. But I don't think that's ready to happen for years and years and years to come. So again, this is supposed to be a small part of the show, and I ended up talking for at least 20 minutes on the whole damn thing. So it's almost coming up to 9 o'clock. So Liberal Dan Radio, talk from the left. That's right here, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. LiberalDanRadio.com or Twitch.LiberalDanRadio.com. Remember to smash that like button. Subscribe to the channel. Again, we got 26 viewers, only 20 likes. So if you've not smashed that like button, please remember to do so. It helps the algorithm. The algorithm needs more rhythm, and all the other paid ways we've talked about already. But the most important thing to help out the show, again, is to go hit like on videos. Anything new that comes up, like it, share it to your social media channels, and then make comments on it as you see fit. And the longer the comment, the better it is, because it draws other people in. Say, oh, other people are talking about this. Maybe we should show this to people as well. So imagine if Biden had told Al Gore he needed more rhythm. That doesn't work. I'm going to play this one instead.
I said, well, let's see how we say that. Acetaminophen.
Because, Donald Trump's a fucking idiot. Anyway. So let's see. Another more interesting news. Federal judge halts RFK Jr.'s changes to children's vaccine policies. A federal judge Monday dealt a major blow to the Trump administration's efforts to overhaul the nation's vaccine policies, including the controversial decision to slap the number of federally recommended vaccinations for children. U.S. District Court Judge Brian Murphy in Boston put a hold on the decisions made by CDC and Prevention Advisory Committee ruling that Health Secretary RFK Jr. had improperly placed the entire committee. The decision was hailed by the American Academy of Pediatrics and other leading health groups that brought the lawsuits, as well as infectious disease experts around the country. Today's ruling is historic and welcome outcome for children, communities, and pediatricians everywhere, says Dr. Andrew Racine, the Pediatric Academy's president. Administration plans to appeal the decision, obviously, according to DHS spokesperson Andrew Nixon. HHS looks forward to this judge's decision being overturned, just like his other attempts to keep the Trump administration from governing. Nixon confirmed, however, that the ruling had forced the CDC Vaccine Committee, the Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices, or ACIP, to postpone a meeting that was planned for Wednesday and Thursday. The committee was expected to raise new questions about the COVID-19 vaccines and possibly revamp how federal vaccines policies are formulated. The judge ruled that Kennedy and his committee had made arbitrary and capricious decisions, ignoring a long-used, well-regarded scientific process for developing vaccine policies. He wrote in his ruling, the government has disregarded those methods and thereby undermined the integrity of its actions. The ACIP, whose members Kennedy fired and replaced largely with new members who also criticized vaccine, had issued a series of contentious recommendations, including a recommendation that not all babies should get vaccinated against hepatitis B at birth. The judge's ruling states the appointment of 13 committee members appointed by Kennedy since 2025, when the previous members were fired. Administration lawyers had argued that the changes were a result of different interpretations of vaccine data. Yes, of course, they were different interpretations of vaccine data. The correct ones, and then RFK Jr. and his cronies ones, aka the incorrect ones. This is a significant victory for public health, evidence-based medicine, the rule of law, and the American people. Richard Hughes, a lawyer for the plaintiffs, told reporters after the ruling. So another loss for the Trump administration at court. Now, Jolie did share the link to I'm going to pin that one on both ones, which is the link to the Liberal Dan Radio store if you do feel like buying. Remember the image that I shared about the United States should be the 11th province of Canada? That shirt is now available, and it's up online either as a short sleeve or a long sleeve on Liberal Dan Radio shop at liberaldanradioshop.fourthwall.com. The link is there in the chat. Click it, and you can support the show another way while wearing Liberal Dan Radio merchandise. I still have yet to order the shirts. I need to order for certain people. Sorry, Aaron. Sorry, Jolie. But we'll get to that occasionally or eventually or whatever. What else? I hate this when this happens again. The way that Google Chrome tabs work is, they merge the tabs together, and it's annoying. And that didn't work. Anyway, we'll figure that out later. So we'll just have to deal with it as it is right now. One of the big things that people are talking about, or one of the things that people are talking about, are prediction markets. Prediction markets like Kalshi, Polymarket. They're basically, people are trying to regulate them as commodities. They're trying to claim that they're commodities. Because basically you say, okay, we're going to buy these things, and then you get the price is going up or down or whatever, and we're going to see whether or not these certain things happen, and if they do happen by a certain date, then therefore you will get money. Kind of maybe akin to the idea of like a shorting a stock or vice versa. Maybe that's where they're trying to get it from. The CFTC oversees these platforms as derivative markets, treating predictions of events like weather or GDP as financial contracts. Proponents argue they are aggregate information and allow for hedging risk, much like commodity futures, rather than simply betting on a sporting event, although I think you can bet on sporting events on these things as well. Critics, including state regulators and the American Gaming Association, argue that these platforms are unregulated, high-risk gambling on politics, disasters, and sports. They contend these sites should be subjected to state gambling, taxes, and consumer protection laws. It says that the key differences from gambling, supposedly, unlike traditional casinos or sportsbook that profit from user losses, prediction market platforms take a small fee from traders, fostering a peer-to-peer structure. So like poker. So that's the problem. Like if I'm playing online poker with somebody, like a game of Texas Hold'em, that game of Texas Hold'em we'll have all the people playing it, and then the casinos, either online or in person, will take what's called a rake. They will rake some of the coins away, rake some of the chips away, or virtually if you're doing it online, and they will take a share of the overall pot while letting other people. So basically, if they're going to make the argument that prediction market platforms are taking a small fee from the people trading on it, then you could make the same argument for like Texas Hold'em poker games, because again, you're not profiting off of somebody winning or losing like you might on a blackjack game where it's blackjack against the dealer and the house is the dealer. You're not profiting, you're profiting because the other people are playing and you're using it. And it's, again, a Texas Hold'em game is just as much of a peer-to-peer structure as these commodity markets are. And so absolutely, these places should absolutely be regulated as gambling. Now, do I believe you should be able to do it? Fine, whatever. You should be able to do what you want to do as long as it's not harming anybody else. But it should still be regulated like a casino, like gambling, because that's what it fucking is. It's gambling. It's not a commodity. Hell, I would argue that there are many parts of the stock market that are more akin to gambling, like shorting. Yeah, you're not betting against the stock market itself. But you are still betting against. You're taking a risk, and you're basically trying to betting that the price of this commodities, this stock is going to go down. So you're gonna, sell it at high when it's high in hopes you rebuy it at low. Short selling should have never been allowed to exist in the first place. Short selling is ridiculous, and whoever came up with short selling is an evil genius, but is still fucking evil. But yeah. The idea, it's just ridiculous that there are people who are actually trying to make the argument that these decision markets are somehow not gambling. Of course, you can get a lawyer to argue anything for you if you pay them enough. So, and 50% of attorneys are typically wrong because you go into a court case, you could try and get a decision for yourself or for your client, and one of the attorneys makes one argument, the other attorney makes another argument, and based on each argument, one attorney is going to win and one attorney is going to lose. So one of those attorneys are going to be wrong. Now, there might be some places where both attorneys are wrong. Again, so it's kind of like, 0 and double 0 on the roulette wheel, right? Just to bring it back to the gambling analogy. Anyway, hey, Aaron, good to see you. Thank you for joining. I'm not angry at you for doing your CompTIA Security Plus class. I want you to do well in it, so take whatever time you need, obviously. I appreciate any help that you're able to give me as a mod on the channel. I love you and Jolie a lot for everything that you do for me, and every one of you else of you should love them too. Anyway, so let's flip on back over to my little thing of what I wanted to talk about. Wow, I actually did that in the correct order that I wanted to do, but I thought I skipped around, but no, I missed that one. I didn't do that one. I already did that one already. So, let's see. Then, of course, today we had the hearing over MarkWayne Mullin. Or should I call him MarkWayne Mullins? Because, just like the Straits of Hormuz, I wonder does Trump ever call him MarkWayne Mullins, like plural? I wonder. That'd be interesting to see if he has or not or whatever. But anyway, this is I didn't get a chance to hear the opening statement, but a lot of this was, a lot of this thing had some really good back and forth between him and old Rand Paul, which is hilarious. But let's go ahead and flip back down here, and we will see what it is that we want to see over here. Actually, do we want to do it this way? I think we could do it this way. Let's just do it this way. That way I think we have a better one, so you can still see your text, and you can still see me over here, plus MarkWayne and Rand and anybody else we pop up over there.
Swear in witnesses. Will the nominee please stand and raise your right hand? Do you swear that the testimony you will give before this committee will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I don't believe you. You just lied in front of everybody. Let's continue. Wait, Mr. Spock, somebody today said Liberal Dan was AI. I mean, I do have some AI videos, absolutely, but I don't think, AI could not come up with somebody as handsome as this. Right? Anyway, I'm wondering who said that I am AI. That's interesting. That I am, like, I am 100% completely AI. That's weird that somebody would suggest that. Anyway, I think if I was AI, I might actually have. I mean, if I was AI, they're like, I'm doing something wrong, because that Instagram, model that is out there, the one with all the feet pics that got millions of followers on Instagram, that AI did a much better job of me of getting traction, so to speak. So, Real Bill P, MarkWayne, 2 first names, required to be a jerk. Actually, I think MarkWayne is just 2, but it's 1 shoved together. And of course, as we said on the last show, the reason why his mama named him MarkWayne, because one of his uncles was named Mark and the other uncle's named Wayne, and she couldn't remember or figure out which one of them was the father. Yeah, anyway. So, let's continue talking and hearing what MarkWayne Mullin has to say about his, I don't know why I'm talking like a redneck still.
Mullin, you are recognized for your opening statement.
I think.
Wait, Real P or Steve says his mom expected twins. Maybe there's a conjoined twin. Maybe he has like a dead fetus like living somewhere inside him, and that's the cause of all the rage.
Before I can start my opening statement, I have to address the remarks that the chairman made, calling me a liar. Sir, I think everybody in this room knows that I'm very blunt and direct to the point, and if I have something to say, I'll say it directly to your face. If you recall, back in my House days, we actually did have this conversation because of the remarks that I've made. You were in a room. I simply addressed that I said I could understand because of the...
Now, here he is already proving that he is not somebody who has the temperament to be the head of DHS. Because he, instead of trying to sit here and talk about the qualifications, of which he has none, to be in this position, because I am probably more qualified to sit in that seat than he is, and I'm not qualified to be in that seat. Let's be clear. I wouldn't be qualified to run the Department of Homeland Security, but I'm more qualified than he is. That's for damn sure. Let's continue.
Behavior you were having, that I can understand why the neighbor did what he did. As far as my terms as a snake in the grass, sir, I work around this room to try to fix problems. I've worked with many people in this room. Seems like you fight Republicans more than you work with us. I did address those remarks.
Maybe because of all of the Republicans that are out there, he may very be the one who is most likely, at least at this point, to actually stand up and call out this administration and call out his other Republicans when they're wrong, because he is probably literally a libertarian that's just registered as a Republican. Now, does he have some shitty things that probably libertarians disagree with as well? Sure, absolutely. But this is not to say that I like old Rand Paul, because no, I don't. But still, if you're comparing the goodness of them, he is the least worst of the Republicans, I guess, in the Senate. Maybe there's one example who might be better. Maybe the ones that are leaving office might now have a little bit more of a spine and a backbone than Rand Paul does. But Rand Paul shows it a little bit more than the rest of his Senate colleagues.
I did explain your gimmicks by the amendment you put forth. And as far as me saying that I invoke violence, I don't think
he doesn't invoke violence. He just threatened to kick somebody's ass in the middle of a hearing with Senator Sanders.
Anybody should be hit by surprise. I don't like that. But if I do have something to say, everybody in this room knows I'll come straight to you. I'll say...
somebody who's the head of a department agency should have a filter. They should be able to know when it's appropriate to say and do certain things and when it's not appropriate to say and do certain things. Simple as that.
It publicly and I'll say it privately, but I'll never say it behind your back. So for you to say I'm a liar, sir, that's not accurate. And I got proof to say that because you have spent...
I have proof that I'm not a liar. What? You can't prove that you're not a liar. Like, it's impossible to do. You cannot prove that negative. It's an absurd statement. You can prove that you weren't lying about a singular particular statement, but you can't prove that you overall are not a liar, because I could show you 100 facts or 100 statements that I make and show them how they're all true, but then leave out one where I lied, right? So the ability, it's just a logical, asking somebody to prove a negative or saying to prove a negative is absolutely a logical fallacy. So let's continue.
Spent millions of dollars in my campaigns against me because we just don't get along. However, sir, that doesn't keep me at all from doing my job. I can have.
But there are plenty of other things that keep you from doing your job, or would keep you from doing your job if and when you're confirmed as, the head of the Department of Homeland Security.
Different opinions with everybody in this room, but as Secretary of Homeland, I'll be protecting everybody, including Kentucky, as much as I will my own backyard in Oklahoma. It's bigger than the.
Where are you from? Sorry.
Partisan bickering that we have. It's bigger than the political differences we have. The truth is, I have a job to do, and I don't like to fail at anything, at all.
And if you make me fail, I'll kick your ass, is what he wants to say, right?
So I can set it aside if you're willing to set it aside. Let me earn your respect. Let me
a little too late for that there, Mullin.
Earn the job. I won't fail you. I won't back down from a challenge. And I'll also admit when I'm wrong.
No, you won't.
I'm not perfect. I don't claim to be perfect.
Well, if you did, you would be a liar.
I make mistakes just like anybody else.
Clearly.
But mistakes, if you own them, you can learn from them.
Republicans don't own mistakes. We talked about that earlier. Republicans will either double down on their mistakes, or they will try and pivot the conversation to something else to avoid having to discuss the fact that they made a mistake. And sometimes it's not even a mistake, because I wouldn't call his outburst in front of the Senate in the Senate committee when Sanders had to stop the MMA fighter from fighting. I wouldn't call that a mistake. That was purposely done.
And you can move ahead.
It might have been a bad decision, but it wasn't a mistake.
And I'll make that commitment to you. Ranking Member Peters.
You shouldn't have
Chairman
to.
Paul.
You shouldn't be putting somebody up to be the head of DHS who has to guarantee or affirm to you that he's not going to be a total, complete, utter piece of shit.
I do thank you for this opportunity. It is a humbling experience. A kid from Westville, Oklahoma, that grew up with a dad that worked hard. He set the work example for all of us. And all my families, and my siblings,
all his families? He has multiple families? Interesting.
We all work hard, and I'm proud of the family we have. But to say that a kid with a bad speech impediment would one day sit up here in front of you and be nominated to be the Secretary of Homeland?
Anybody have any information about MarkWayne Mullin mocking Joe Biden? Because that would be interesting to see.
It was humbling enough to be selected by Oklahoma to be their U.S. representative when I didn't even know how to tie a tie.
I learned that when I was like 10, 11, 12-ish, maybe, if that. Like, Jesus.
And 10 years later, to be able to be called a United States Senator and serve with all you guys. And I respect.
What if Joe Biden has speech impediment? He does! I know you know that, but still. It's funny.
Respect every one of you guys. I do. Regardless if I have an opinion about you or not, you were elected by your state, and I respect that. I may disagree with you, but I respect it because we all make decisions based on two things: the way we're raised, which never changes, and our life experiences, which constantly change. For me,
and it doesn't seem to me like, some of the way that you were raised does, or maybe some of it's your life experience, I don't know, that caused you to outburst in the Senate committee hearing, right?
To be able to have the love of my life behind me, somebody I literally fell in love with in third grade.
Love of my life will never be my wife, 'cause you were my first cousin. Oh, sorry, that's the other topic that we were talking about. Sorry.
Grade. I knew I was going to marry her in 8th grade. She didn't know that yet.
Weird. It's like, I knew we were going to get married in 8th grade, but she didn't. The plan was launched.
I had to work through that process. But at 18...
I had to work on gaslighting her for years, for 10 years, or maybe 5 years, I don't know.
Years old, and I was 19, she agreed to marry me. I didn't have anything. I was on a wrestling scholarship, living in a dorm. She was cheering at Northeastern State University. I think she fell in love with my truck, because my truck was pretty cool. But the truth is,
I mean, it does make sense that his truck would be his only redeeming quality.
we didn't know.
And she's sitting there like, yep, I loved you for your truck.
What we didn't know, but we did know we loved each other. And I haven't been perfect. I apologize to her quite often and send her flowers all the time. But I still am.
Oh, how sweet. You send her flowers all the time, and because you're not perfect. You know, actually, we'll buy my wife flowers for no reason. If you're only buying your wife flowers because you screwed up, then people are going to be like, oh, I guess you screwed up again when you buy flowers, right?
Humbled by the fact that we've got to enjoy this walk together. We've had God on our side and her right beside me. And to our six.
Did you leave room for Jesus in the middle, or what? How does that work? Are you having a threesome? Are you a throuple? Like, what is that about?
6 children who's been on this adventure with me. What an adventure it's been. We have a saying in our family, you're never going to change anything you're willing to tolerate. That's how we live our life, and that's how we move forward. And regardless of...
What if Biden admitted to buying Jill flowers all the time for fucking up?
Had Biden done it, MAGA would flip. Had Biden done it, whole numbers would flip. Had Biden done it, the screen fell play. But Trump did it, so it must be okay.
Rantler goes, he let the air out of her bike tires, Jesse Water style. Oh, damn. I should have the damn from Friday.
Regardless of what's in front of us, we always take it on as a family. And I'm not scared of a challenge. I am scared of failure. And so I will work hard each day.
He'll work hard, huh?
Oh my.
Sorry.
I'll work hard to make the 280,000 employees at DHS with the 22 agencies that's underneath me proud.
Again, you are not a part of, if you're not a part of DHS or haven't had that experience, you should not be in charge of that many people. Like, fine, if you want to put him in some lower position where he can train under somebody else with some sort of experience, that's fine, but Trump doesn't want that. Trump doesn't want experience. Trump doesn't want competence. Trump wants loyalty, because that's what Trump worries about. It's loyalty before anything else, and probably just loyalty alone. And if you end up screwing up and making him look bad, then he's going to move the checker piece. I'm not going to say chess pieces because they're not that bright, but move the checker piece to another part of the board and install another checker piece into place, lather, rinse, repeat, and we'll see how spectacularly Mullin will fail, because I anticipate a spectacular failure.
I'll show them somebody that no one will outwork. I'll work beside them every single day to not just secure a homeland, to bring peace of mind and confidence.
As long as Donald Trump is president, I'm not going to have peace of mind or confidence that the homeland is secure for actual reasons and then for made-up ones. And they're worried about the made-up ones, and that's why we'll never be secure under a Trump administration.
To the agency. My goal in 6 months is that we're not in the lead story every single day. My goal is for people to understand we're out there, we're protecting them, and we're working with them. My goal is to make every one of you guys proud. My goal for those that don't support me, regret not supporting me.
You will support me or else he'll come kick your ass.
But we have to get DHS funded.
And you're leaving the Senate to do that? How does it have to replace the senator and just make it less likely to get DHS funded or whatever? But again, you would get DHS funded more quickly if you would just put people in charge who would rein in ICE and make sure that they behave properly and don't murder American citizens.
We have to.
And kill many people in custody as well, regardless of their citizenship status. And then also have other people die who you leave at burger joints or whatever, who froze to death because, you just a bunch of bigoted asshats running around in little flak jackets or whatever.
My friends, we have to set the partisan side down.
You first.
And we have to realize that we're putting our homeland and the peace of mind at risk for the American people.
Yeah, you are, as in Republicans, you absolutely are putting the peace of mind of the homeland at risk because of the ways that things that you're supporting, the things that you're okay with ICE doing in the name of supposed security.
Sometimes it's political theater, sometimes it's true differences. But what we do know is that we're playing with fire. We have 280.
And if you're playing with fire, you're going to get burnt, because I came up with that myself, but I'm not a liar.
1,000 DHS employees right now that are on day 30 without pay, and they're still showing up every single day to do their job. That is a dedicated group of people.
I don't know if dedication is the word I would use for it. For the ICE people, it's probably like, well, I'll get paid later, and I still get to beat up some immigrants and minorities, so I get the benefit of that. So at least they'll help me do that while I'm waiting for my paycheck, because that's probably what they're cared about more. Because, like the people who said, oh, this is just like Call of Duty.
And we should all be proud of them. We should all be working together, and we should all be trying to fund them.
And they've offered options, and you won't even debate or compromise or whatever on those options that have been provided for you to get the legislation passed, because y'all don't actually care about results. You care about optics and how things look, but not in the way that you should care about optics and how things look. You want to just make sure that you have the people out there showing a big show of strength to terrify the communities, because that's the optics that y'all want.
Pray, seriously, I pray that we can get past this. That once this hearing is over and once we go through this process, I get it. I get some of it's got to be political theater. I understand.
Wait, Jojo Mojo. Hey, good to see you, Jojo Mojo. Also, ICE is literally taking people's phones and wallets, so fuck them getting paid. Not only are they taking the phones, but they're selling them too. Like they're blanking them out and selling them.
Understand it. I've had to really pray about my attitude.
The person who's in charge of the Department of Homeland Security is somebody who should have to pray about their attitude. That's somebody who doesn't have the temperament. If you have to pray and ask for God's intercession, or whatever, if you're Catholic, I guess you would pray for the priests to intercede, not priests, but the saints to intercede on your behalf. If you have to ask for holy intervention, divine intervention to keep you from getting an attitude problem, guess what? You don't have the temperament in this job one bit. Like you should be able to control it all the live long day. Look, can I lose my temper? Abso-damn-lutely. But there's places for it and there's places not for it.
But I will say, once it's over, I hope we can work together and get them funded. So when I walk in, if I'm fortunate enough to be confirmed,
I'm sure you're going to be confirmed, because we have too many idiots in the Senate who again don't have any issue with hiring unqualified people. They would rather instead hire somebody to kiss Donald Trump's ass.
Walk in as secretary, that these guys are ready to go to work day one. So God bless you.
No one sneezed.
Thank you so much for this opportunity, and I look forward to your questions.
And of course, as he says, also John Fetterman, as exactly, because that MFer better not vote. I mean, it could have already happened already. I think because it was up on the thing. Confirmation vote of Mullin. I don't think anything has happened yet. We're just checking just to make sure. Mullin's nomination set for quick vote as of now, Rand Paul says. Anyway, so let's go ahead and pop open this between Rand and...
The record should show, and I think will show...
Let's just hold on a second. Let me just switch back here for a second. Wanted to hit the wrong thing. Let me just check one other thing real quick. Yeah, that's fine. All right. Yeah, I forgot that I had it on this thing instead of the other thing. Yeah, Fetterman is voting to confirm MarkWayne, despite him not actually apologizing to Rand over his comments. Exactly. Trusted every game. Is this ICE on SNL? Tina Fey as Christy Noem had a good line. Thankfully, my boys at ICE don't mind. They're in it for the love of the game. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, hell, they let Keg's Breath and Kennedy and so on. Exactly. And those Republicans who are up for election, I'm sure Cassidy's not going to oppose Mullin because he has an election going on right now and he will lose votes if that happens. Hey, Scott, good to see you. Wait, Power Cannon NP, you look like you have signed copy of Daisy's Destruction and you watch it on the... What the hell are you talking about?
Lack of contrition, no apology, and no regrets for your...
No regrets.
Support. You completely understand the violence that was perpetrated on me. You're unrepentant. The only thing you quibble about is whether I met you somehow when you were in the house. I don't think we ever met when you were in the house. And this idea that the only thing you're upset about is not that you were for violence. What you're upset about is that I called you a liar because you said it to my face. So it's really more about this machismo that you have.
And again, somebody with that level of machismo, as he says, should not be in charge of DHS. You should have, you know, the proper etiquette to be able to lead that department. But of course, we had known before, so, I mean, what do we know, right?
When in Oklahoma, the media asked you about the refugee welfare programs, the programs you voted to continue funding, it was this whole idea that you were going to transfer it because you were uncomfortable, your anger, low impulse control, you know, causes you to then go after and decide that you're going to go after me as well. And so you say you completely understood that I was assaulted from behind, had 6 ribs broken and part of my lung removed, and that was just fine. That's something that you, I guess, approve of as far as resolution of political problems. When I talked to you privately on the phone, there was no apology. You just said, well, we can let our political difference, you know, go by. And you said a few minutes ago, we can just set it aside. Well, political differences we can, but when you say that you agree with a felon, a Trump-hating felon who attacked me, somehow you think I'm just going to set that aside? Oh, it's no big deal. You know, I lay in pain for 2 months, had 6 ribs broken, 3 of them separated, grinding upon bone for months, had part of my lung removed, and you think that's great and to be extolled. I mean, the sheer lack of any kind of self-awareness that you're going to be leading thousands of men and women who will have the use of force, and there's been great questions in our country about how that will be used, and you think a violent attack is just fine.
Exactly. We need somebody who in there who is going to understand and basically make sure that ICE knows what the proper use of force doctrines are and make sure that they're trained in these multiple different doctrines in how to, you know, not escalate, when to escalate, when, you know, when to use force, when to not use force, when to use lethal force, when not to use lethal force, etc. But, you know, the person with Mullin, the temperament of Mullin, is not going to understand that, is not going to be able to teach other people because you're not going to be able to lead. You have to be able to lead somebody and set the example for them to be able to, you know, understand that, oh, this is really not something we should be doing.
So I guess my first question is, do you think that justifying that kind of violence sets a good example for the men?
Hey, Damon Dog, good to see you. Hey, Boston Brian Raid, awesome to hear. Good to see everybody coming over from Boston Brian. Appreciate anybody who is coming over. Thank you so much for joining the show. We're just going over Rand Paul humiliating MarkWayne Mullin.
Men and women of ICE and Border Patrol.
Mr. Chairman, first of all, I didn't know the extent of your damage. When the phone call was made, I made it to you and I tried to talk to you. You didn't engage at all. In fact, you said, get your paperwork in. It's got to be 3 days in between.
You offered no apology.
Sir?
And you offer no apology today and no regrets.
No regrets.
Haven't heard the word apologize, haven't heard the word regret, haven't heard I misspoke and it was heated and I made a mistake. Haven't heard any of those words.
Sir, actually, it wasn't heated, and I'm not apologizing for pointing out your character.
Good. So you're jolly well fine, and you want the American public and the people up here to vote that may or may not vote for you to know that you supported the felonious, violent attack on me from behind.
I did not say I supported it. I said I understood it. There's a difference.
How could you understand it? Like, it's not, you know, I don't understand the mindset of anybody doing something like that, even if I don't agree with the person. I mean, maybe some people, but it would have to be an extreme. Like, you know, if somebody wanted to go take out, like, you know, if I lived in Nazi Germany and somebody wanted to go take out old Adolf, I could understand that. But, you know, It'd have to be that level, right?
By calling you...
Yeah, or Berber. Jolly well fine. By golly, gee willikers.
And so that means you really didn't approve of it, just completely understand it. What do you think most people would interpret completely understand to be? Support for or a condemnation of the violence?
Sir, as I said, we can have our differences. It's not going to keep me from doing my job as Secretary of Homeland Security.
No, I'm sure. I agree with MarkWayne Mullin at that point. The differences that he has with Rand Paul are not going to affect his ability to do the job whatsoever. It's all the other shit that he does that's going to affect his ability to run DHS in a proper way or not.
I'm going to secure Kentucky and take care of Kentucky as much as I am Oklahoma.
If this were a one-off, it would be one thing. If you just disliked me so much that you approved of violence against me, people could just write it off. Well, maybe they hate each other. But really, there's a pattern of this. Let's go ahead and roll the tape.
Roll that beautiful bean footage.
Watch how this tiny thing removes
I don't want to watch how that tiny
from
thing.
my musty basement in just 4.
Why does C-SPAN run ads? I mean, I understand that C-SPAN has enough viewers to be monetized, but I don't understand why it has to be. Like, why should it be? Like, it doesn't make sense that C-SPAN should be running ads.
We can be good as second adults. We can finish it here.
Okay, that's fine. Perfect.
You want to do it now?
I'd love to do it right now.
Well, stand your butt up then.
You stand up, Bob.
Oh, hold it. Oh, stop it.
Say
Right.
solution.
Oh, no, sit down. Sit down. You know, you're a United States Senator. Sit down.
Active.
Oh, okay, sit down, please.
All right.
Can I respond?
Hold it.
If he got up too, would you have gone at it right there in the hearing room?
I would have probably jumped over the dais at that point.
You have to be called out on it. If not, this guy continues to get away with this stuff. And it's just, you know,
Retro Senator Game says, what's going on? Rand Paul is playing not just the Senate thing when Bernie Sanders was like, Senator, have some decorum, you're a senator, calm down. That, and then his response on media afterwards as to what happened and to if he would have, and he just there basically just said, hey, if he would have actually gotten up, I would have jumped over the dais and I would have beaten his ass, basically. Yeah, and this guy's an MMA fighter, and like 70-something-year-old Bernie Sanders is like, you know, I'm going to hold you back.
It's silly, it's stupid, but every now and then you get punched in the face. Well, go back to the 1800s and 1700s, they used to have canes.
And duels. They used to have duels. Yeah.
Right. And there's a way that men used to settle their differences. I ignored him 4 times to be part of that, and people say, yes, you're supposed to ignore it. Well, you know, I'm not a very good Christian. I try to be a good Christian, and I know people say you're supposed to turn the other cheek. I prefer the David method.
I prefer to kick the other cheek than to confirm the other cheek. Let's see, Grandpa Bernie told the kids to sit down and eat their meat or they wouldn't get any pudding. If you don't have any meat, you can't have your pudding. How can you have any pudding if you don't eat your meat? MarkWayne needs a pillow for it. Bernie saved MarkWayne from catching a charge. Exactly.
Move from an almost.
By the way, I'm not afraid of biting. I will bite.
Biting?
Oh, I bite.
He's a biter. Oh, he's a biter.
I'll do anything. I'm not about it. And I don't care where I bite.
Luck Dragon Dan is so good at Bernie, I'm surprised he hasn't been on SNL. Well, I don't look like Bernie, but I am, and this is actually the first time I've tried to do Bernie Sanders' imitation, so, oi. Anyway, I don't think he says oi that much, though, but...
In hindsight, any regrets?
No, I really don't.
So no regrets. In fact, even after your anger had cooled, you were still bragging that if he'd only been brave enough to stand up, you'd have jumped over the dais and taught him a lesson, because that's how...
On the dais, on the dais, on the dais. Wait, sorry, that's not what he said.
Men should settle their differences. Do you think fighting as a resolution for political differences is a good example for the men and women of ICE and Border Patrol?
Nope.
As you can notice over my shoulder here is my good friend Sean O'Brien. Both of us have had conversations. Both of us have shaken hands. And both of us agreed we could have done things different. Sean is...
Differently.
Someone that has become a close friend. We talk all the time. I've been on his podcast.
Look, I used to argue with people all the time online who I'm now friends with. A very close friend of mine who is, we started off vehemently disagreeing with stuff. Now, we didn't threaten violence against each other, mind you. Look, if they were able to become friends, cool, great. It's wonderful to see that people can break, whatever differences they have, put them aside, become good friends, whatever. That's fine. That's great. That doesn't prove that you now have the temperament magically to serve as the head of the Department of Homeland Security. All it says is that you were able to kiss and make up with one person. I'm sorry. Are you going to beat my ass now because I said y'all kissed? You know, again. See, Belfast Bob, will Rand still vote for him like a good little diaper Don fellow? I don't think he will. I think he will be a no, but Fetterman will be a fucking yes.
You talked through this. That's how you handle your differences. Not like this, Chairman.
I mean, Rand Paul's been relatively calm, and you are getting more and more aggravated. It seems to me that Rand Paul would have a better temperament to run the Department of Homeland Security than you would.
I'm glad you guys are friends now and that you've reconciled. But really, it doesn't get to the real point whether or not you think violence is the way we settle things.
Exactly.
In the days after the fight, you said, and I quote, sometimes people just need to be punched in the face. Is that still your opinion, that political disputes can sometimes and often only be resolved by violence?
What a pain. I don't want to hear dogs fighting or whatever, blah, blah, blah. Again, C-SPAN should not have ads. It's ridiculous.
I don't always agree with that. I don't believe in political violence.
I don't always agree with that. It's not that I never agree with that. I don't agree with it now. I don't always agree with it. So sometimes he does. There's a non-negative amount of times, a positive amount of times that he does agree that violence is the solution, is what he's telling you.
That very clear. But
the dogs are answering the question for him. It's kind of funny. Should you fight? And then here comes the dogs. Dogs fighting, and that's actually kind of funny. Now that you point that out, it atrocious at every game.
Sometimes people do need, theoretically speaking, sir, I get it. It's about character assassination for you. That's the way this game is played. I understand it, and you are making this about you.
You can't assassinate something that doesn't exist.
Which is fine, but that doesn't keep me as Secretary of Homeland Security.
Character assassination when you were the one lauding the assault. Who do you think started that character assassination? I'm just repeating what you have done in character assassination. I'm repeating your support for the assault.
Right. Telling somebody who they are, repeating their own words back to them is not an assassination of assassination of somebody's character. And thank you, Susie, for being a liberal Danimal for 7 months. Happy Daniversary to you.
But that's somehow something I started?
No, sir. What I'm saying is you're adding a lot to it.
Yeah, you're to blame for pointing out the words that I said. You're the reason why I said those words and why people have to hear those words again. Let's just hide it under the bed or something, or hide it under the mattress so nobody has to see it.
In the days after the fight, you did many interviews in which you justified the violence as historically justified by precedents, such as caning and dueling. Is it today your opinion that the caning of Charles Sumner was not only justified but argues still for resolving our political differences with violence?
What I was simply pointing out is some of the rules that still apply to this body. For instance, dueling with 2 consenting adults is still there.
It's illegal to fucking duel, you moron.
Pointing out what is still
illegal
acceptable.
for 170 years. There's no precedent for legal dueling. Even then, they fled the country. Do you realize that the man that beat Charles Sumner with a cane?
Yeah, I trust everything. Did he miss the song from Hamilton where he goes, "I'm the damn fool who shot him"? And they also the aim high, put your gun in the air so it doesn't, so to show that I don't intend to shoot you or whatever. Right. But Rand Paul is wearing glasses. Why wear glasses if not to take deadly aim?
He beat him till he was unconscious. You know why no senators intervened? Because his friend held a gun on the other senators, and he kept beating him until he crushed his skull. That's what you're insinuating is the precedent of the Senate, and that's what you live by. That is a very, very dangerous sentiment.
Nothing?
After
Nothing
half a
on
dozen
that?
victory lap interviews where you pointed out that the union guy was just lucky that fear kept him from standing up, Dana Bash asked you if you have any regrets about bringing violence to a Senate committee, and you replied that you have no regrets. Today you've said you have no regrets about being happy, being completely understanding why I was attacked from behind. You had no regrets about, instigating a brawl in a Senate committee hearing. Are those still your opinions?
Mr. Chairman, you're going to have your opinion. I'm going to have mine. As Secretary of Homeland Security, I'm going to bring peace of mind and security to this country, and I'm going to stay.
You just lied right there, sir. See, he says, I love Hamilton, even though I usually don't like musicals that change history dramatically. Now, for some reason, with all the conversations we've been having today, now I have just, for some reason in my mind, I'm hearing Bernie Sanders doing the Alexander Hamilton. Alexander Hamilton, my name is Alexander Hamilton. There's a million things I haven't done, but just you wait. Sorry. Just
laser focused on that.
Senator Peters.
All right. Let's shut that one down. Oh, look, another ad. Yay.
Local tax experts are here.
No, we don't want that neither. And then we have this small one about the family with Alex Preddy.
After DHS officers shot and killed 2 American citizens this past January, you joined top administrative officials in publicly blaming and disparaging the victims. Following the killing of Renee Good, Secretary Noem called her a domestic terrorist. You, sir, you called Alex Preddy, quote, a deranged individual that came in to cause max damage. Could we expect those kinds of quick responses if you are confirmed as secretary? Would you be basically, well, you did, you responded as Secretary Noem. Are we going to just expect that same behavior all over again?
No, Senator. I have a deep amount of respect for you. We've had our differences, but I do respect you. I think I said this privately when we had a conversation. Those words probably should have been retracted. I shouldn't have said that.
They probably should have been retracted. He didn't retract them, but they probably should be retracted. Why don't you retract them now?
And Secretary, I wouldn't. The investigation is ongoing. And there is, like I said, there's sometimes going to make a mistake, and I'll own it. That one, I went out there too fast. I was responding immediately without the facts. That's my fault. That won't happen as Secretary.
And why would we believe that? If you've already shown that you're willing to do that, and you've already shown multiple times that you lack the temperament to be able to control yourself, be it threats of violence or reaching stupid-ass conclusions without enough information to make those conclusions, why would we believe now that we give you a title that'll somehow magically make you have better decorum? It'll magically make you have more and better sense than you did when you made those comments just as a senator. There's no reason to believe that. So again, boy who cried wolf story. Republicans hear it and say, oh, the moral of the story is, well, you should always believe somebody who lies because they might tell the truth the next time. Instead of stop believing people who lie to you because there's no reason to expect somebody to be honest who continuously lies to you. So don't be mad when people now don't believe you, even when you now start telling the truth, right? So, thinking before you can speaking is not something you could ever accuse Mullin of, says Big Hook. Absolutely correct.
So you regret that statement?
A choice at every game. My question for him would be, what do you think of your predecessor murdering a puppy? Or how do you believe, would you shoot a puppy in a gravel pit who was misbehaving?
I already said that, yes, sir.
Would you want to apologize to the family of Alex Preddy?
Well, sir, I just said I regret those statements.
Which is not an apology.
Is that the same as an apology?
No.
I haven't seen the investigation. We'll let the investigation go through, and if I'm proven wrong, then I will absolutely.
After DHS officers...
I have no reason to believe that at all whatsoever, that he will apologize afterwards. And look, if the investigation comes through and it actually gives you the correct information that he was just a law-abiding citizen participating in a protest whilst wearing his holstered weapon, which, you know, his Second Amendment right guarantees the right to carry, you know, keep and bear arms, right? You would support that for any of these J6 motherfuckers if they would have had a gun on them or whatever. If any of them had guns on them, you would have been like, well, that's their constitutional right to have a gun on them. But now this one, you're calling them, well, max damage or whatever you said that he wanted to do. No, I don't believe for a damn second that if the results of the investigation actually come out, which I don't expect them to come out and say he was wrong or he was wronged, to say that Noem was wrong, to come out and actually defend Alex Preddy. I don't expect that to happen one bit, but if for some magical circumstance it actually did happen that way and we did happen to get, you know, information or a ruling or a finding that says that Alex Preddy was unjustly, unlawfully killed, and the person who murdered him actually did murder him and put, you know, press charges against him for violating Alex Preddy's civil rights, etc., etc., etc. I would not expect MarkWayne Mullin to come out and say, I was wrong for saying what I said. If he does, I will completely admit that I was wrong here on Liberal Dan Radio, Talk from Left That's Right, but I think y'all would understand why I don't believe him at this point, right? He's from Oklahoma. They don't go to the bathroom to brush their teeth without a gun. Let's see, blah, 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 blah. What else? There was another one. I hadn't found it up yet. Let me try and bring it up again, because there was another one I wanted to see, but for some reason the algorithm only wants to give me those two. I guess I can look at the Forbes version of it, because I mean this should be considered all public domain because it's all from C-SPAN. Let's see if this is just a re-airing of what aired. Or let me just do it this way. Don't want that. Don't want that. No. Don't want that. All right, we're just gonna pop on open the other one, this one.
Whoa. What's that? I just built a budgeting app.
Freaking apps again, freaking ads again, no. But I guess this one is not a whatchamacallit, so let's go ahead and, for some reason it's taking forever to load, but okay, here we go.
Thanks for our conversation yesterday. I want to just actually add on to what Senator Langford was saying and just focus on the attack we had at a temple that's very close to my heart in Michigan, place I know well. Last week, we had an anti-Semitic attack meant to terrorize not just that synagogue, but the entire Jewish community. And I think the light is really blinking red. And that is the feeling for the Jewish community. And just as an objective statement, the Jewish community is 10 times more likely to be the victim of a hate crime than all other religious groups combined. That's not a political statement. That's a factual statement from FBI data. We talked about the need to work together. The Jewish community is spending about $1 billion a year privately securing their own institutions. No religious group should have to spend that amount of money that could be going to lots of other things on their own security in the United States of America. So I would just ask your help in reforming the nonprofit security grant program so it's agile, so you don't have to win the grant and then still do 100 pieces of paper, maybe even looking at a rapid reaction fund, but certainly asking for some sort of task force. You know, I'm thinking about the community in Australia that went to the Australian government.
That's just far too complicated for MarkWayne Mullin to be able to handle. That's never going to happen.
Jewish community and said, we're seeing just a real uptick in threats. We're terrified. And then we have Bondi Beach and a very horrible thing. So can we just agree in public, again, on a bipartisan basis, to sit together to reform this program and figure out how we manage to the threat, because we're not hitting it right now.
Senator, you have a wealth of knowledge from your service in the intel community, and you will know this issue probably better than me. And so,
which means she's probably a better nomination for head of DHS than you would ever be, but, you know, let's continue.
I would welcome the opportunity to sit down and talk to you, figure out what we need to do. I know this is very personal to you, and that's great. We may have some differences on some political views, but this isn't one. You and I will be, you know, laser focused and get this resolved if it's possible. But yes,
if it's possible. You should, there's no can't. We're not American. We're Americans, not Americans. You should not be able to say that something's not possible. If you want to do something, do it, right? Because, I mean, that's what Donald Trump does. He acts first before thinking about anything too, right?
Would absolutely welcome an opportunity to work with you on this.
Great, I appreciate that. I think, you know, in general, your position or your future position as Secretary of Homeland Security sits at like the fulcrum of these big issues we're having as a country, just big cultural issues. The use of law enforcement in our streets and where our rights begin and end, and then our elections, our democracy. And given the importance of that, I think it's important that we state really clearly where you are on those two issues. I think first and foremost on the use of ICE. My state voted for Donald Trump in 2024. A lot of people supported the president's immigration agenda, but then they watched with their own eyes, not filtered through a news source. They watched with their own eyes American citizens killed in their streets for protesting. They saw children caught in the crossfire and being tear gassed. They saw
Well, they probably deserved it, right? According to a lot of conservatives would probably say that.
people randomly being pulled out of their cars and walking down the streets because they happen to look like they could be an immigrant and checked for their papers, which for many of us has a real history.
They're not gonna. That's too vague for him. You have to spell it out for these people. You have to not just say Jewish people have this understanding that, stopping somebody because they look Jewish to check their papers is not an action of a good moral government. So therefore, we shouldn't be doing the same thing to our citizens, regardless of what their background is. You should have to. You probably need to spell it out a little more for this nominee.
They have seen law enforcement go into people's homes without a judicial warrant for a country that was invented because we were being oppressed by a foreign force that demanded entry into our homes. So you say you don't want ICE in the news. You say you want to rebuild trust. Your predecessor was fired because she couldn't manage that. And, people had to go in and bring.
Oh, as conservatives would say, she wasn't fired. They just moved her to another position.
The temperature down. Can you, without other words, just state clearly what you'd be willing to do to fundamentally reform ICE and put into law to do so, since that trust is gone?
Ma'am, as you know, I can't make the law. You guys make that for me.
But you're going to be the secretary.
Yes, I agree, but I can't make the law. I can work within the parameters.
But tell us what you'd be willing to put into law.
So right now, the law that I work into is your guys' decision. We'll work through that. But I do believe there is a better approach. And I think working with municipalities, I would love to see ICE become a transport more than the front line. If we can get back into just simply working with law enforcement, we're going to them and we're picking up these criminals from their jail. One, we're going to reimburse them for having the person there. And have partnership is vitally important. I don't think there needs to be a law to change that.
Well, I mean, there is the Constitution. It doesn't grant any authority to any state or local or municipality police force to be able to act on immigration issues. The ability to act on immigration issues is solely something that belongs to the federal government because of the Constitution, because of Article 1, Section 8, and also because of the 10th Amendment. So that being said, there's no authority for state and local governments to take any part in any of the portions of immigration law. So there's that. But, again, but you can still go into places and do immigration enforcement without acting like a bunch of jackboot thugs. We did it well before ICE was even formed, right? We never used to have ICE.
I can work within what is there.
Yeah, exactly. Silly Dan, the GOP only believe the 10th Amendment when it comes to oppressing black people. I know.
But there's an approach that can happen, but we got to have partners.
Yeah, I understand. But we're not going to agree to this here, but I would just say the ability, the trust is gone, and not just with Democrats. That's why we're here. That's why your predecessor was fired. And there needs to be fundamental reform of this law enforcement agency.
And even if you can't make law, you could still tell us how you're going to run your whole department. Tell us how you're going to run your department, in what ways you're going to improve from the previous one. Now, granted, it's not a very high bar to set. Improving from what Kristi Noem did is like, reaching down to ground level and picking something up an inch. And you've improved it. That being said, you could go into details with us and tell us exactly why it is that Donald Trump appointed you and what it is. We all know why it is, because you're going to be a crony who just does everything he wants you to do because he needed to replace with the other shitbag that was already there that he had to move to another area. That being said, you should be able to, if you're actually qualified for this position, lay out in at least a 30,000 foot view what it is that you are going to change, what fundamental differences you are going to have with your predecessor. What are you going to do to make sure that the people are not terrified of ICE coming down their streets now that you're the head of the Department of Homeland Security? Is he capable of doing something like that? I don't think so. Is he willing to do something like that? I don't think so.
And I think that the public writ large is crying out for that. Let me turn to elections.
Senator,
let me turn to elections. The Department of Homeland Security has the mandate since the Obama era for securing our election infrastructure. That's an important job, and you'll be secretary.
I thought it was just more of a...
Stop it. Stop it now. I don't like the ads. Why is this taking so long to load? Does it not like me that I have...
The president has continued to say that he won the 2020 election, even though there's been 60 court cases saying the opposite. He has said he wants to federalize the elections. He has said name-check cities, including Detroit. He has said voting machines are inaccurate. He has said in the State of the Union, I was on the Senate floor, paraphrase, that if his side doesn't win in November, then the elections were rigged, which is exactly what he said 8 months before the 2020 election. You have your own history. You did not certify the 2020 election. There are people at the Department of Homeland Security, 3 people specifically, who are well-known election deniers now running election security functions. Who won the 2020 election?
Ma'am, we know that President Joe Biden was sworn into office.
That's not the question that they're asking you, you dumb shit.
He was the president for the last 4 years. But I do believe my job as Department of Homeland Security Secretary will be to make sure that we assure that the elections
I'm surprised because he's not the reclaim time. Like, she's not reclaiming the time immediately. Of course, granted, if she did that, it's a woman being, forceful with her words and therefore would be viewed much more negatively as a guy doing it because we still live in a sexist patriarchal system where women can't behave the same way men do and be treated the same way. But, that's a whole nother story for a whole nother time, right?
Are fair and people can trust them.
Does the federal government run the elections process or do states?
It's very clear in the Constitution that the states control state elections, and then there is some federal oversight that's on it, but the federal government can set some standards. So if you're talking about the Save American Act, requiring you, which is within the Constitution, by the way, requiring individuals to be citizens of the United States, I don't think it's too much to ask somebody.
Is that really in the Constitution? I don't think that's in the Constitution anywhere. Now, it does say, the right of a citizen to vote shall not be prohibited from age or gender or whatever. It does say, but it doesn't specifically state that you can't vote on like state elections, for example, if you're non-citizens. I would think that, it would be up to a municipality. Now, conservatives are going to disagree with me on this, but a municipality should be able to say, hey, if you're not a citizen, we still have no problem with you voting in our municipal elections. We have no problem with that. And they should be able to do that because it's a local election and not a federal election. But still, he's still dodging the question.
To prove they're a citizen of the United States.
That's not what we're talking about. I'm talking about administering the elections. If you are Secretary of Homeland Security, do you feel you have the authority to put uniformed officers at polling locations in 2026?
Ma'am, we said this in your office. The only reason why my officers would be there if there was a specific threat for them to be there, not for intimidation. And
so even though we didn't need it during World War II, we didn't need it during Vietnam or the War on Terror, we never had to put uniformed military there. Now, you feel that there's going to be a reason that there's going to be an armed threat to the United States that you need to potentially be there?
No, ma'am. I can't sit there and guarantee hypothetically what threat would be.
I can't guarantee hypothetically. Okay.
I'm not putting military. That's not within my purview.
Uniformed officers.
But if there is a threat, a specific threat, say it's in a Jewish community, and there is a threat that's specific to that polling area, then we will work with local law enforcement. There'll be a reason for us to be there, and it'll be known why we're there.
I think the reason you're here and not Kristi Noem is because Americans trust their local law enforcement now way more than they trust ICE. So I would just say, if we ever get to the point where you are being asked to put armed ICE officers at polling locations, we have lost the plot as a country. We have fundamentally lost it. And until I hear someone tell me that this man, President Trump, will actually allow us to have a free and fair election, there is zero trust here, and I cannot trust that he won't try and steal it again.
Exactly. 100% correct. Anyway, that's the last thing we're going to talk about with the MarkWayne Mullin thing, because I think a lot of the other ones are going to be just more and more and more of the same, and we don't need to beat all those horses that are dead. We're going to wait a second before we play this one, because we have something new. It's new video. It's probably going to premiere tomorrow on the channel. Let's see what other people said first. Are you ready to lose all your crawfish again with another BP oil disaster in the works? Is it in the works? Is there something that says that there is another disaster currently in the works? Because I'm not seeing. Let's see, Gulf oil spill current. Let's see if there's anything in the news about Gulf oil spill in the news. Oh, there you go. There it is. BP wasn't even this bad. Fishermen express worry after Gulf oil spill. About 100 oyster fishermen, shrimpers, and crabbers. Why is this loading up and not letting me see this? Just close this down. Wednesday afternoon, a sign outside W&E Oysters in Dulac read, "No oysters due to oil spill." Down the street, Willie Daisy, owner, was one of 100 people gathered outside Holy Family Catholic Church to discuss the problem. The oil spill is going to be real tragic to our livelihoods here in this area. On February 26th, crude oil was released from the Louisiana offshore oil port due to what the company called a mechanical failure. As of Tuesday, Loop said about 31,500 gallons of oil were released, but 87% had been recovered. Photos and videos taken since the spill show masses of thick tar-like crude floating in the Gulf and sticking to oysters and equipment. This week, Louisiana Department of Health announced oyster beds will be closed along part of the coast, including parts of Terrebonne and Lafourche parishes, due to the spill. At this time, I'm out of business until further notice, and God knows when that's going to be, whose oyster leases are in the middle of the affected area. Other fishermen worry their catches could be affected next. BP wasn't even this bad, at least according to them, I guess the oyster fisher people. We didn't see this much oil coming into our shores and on our banks. The meeting was organized by a group of law firms in the area who call themselves the Louisiana Coastal Claims Coalition. They handed out contracts for legal representation regarding the spill to the attendees. I think it's going to affect not only fishermen today, but it'll affect the consumer on the back end. So restaurants are going to be affected. Tourism gets affected, said David Ardoin, attorney with the AMO trial lawyers. He advised fishermen affected by the spill to keep documentation of any losses. Some do not want to take the chance. A white shrimp season starts Tuesday, but Trostler said he is not sure if he wants to send his boats out. If I go out there and catch shrimp and they come back and they're contaminated or getting crude on my boat, that's a lot of money. So yeah, it's according to the WWL. Let's see. United States Coast Guard, military United Command response to Gulf oil spill. Unified command consisting of Coast Guard, Louisiana Oil Spill Coordinator's Office, and Louisiana Offshore Oil Port respond to conduct oil recovery efforts in the Gulf of Mexico near the New Orleans, whatever. Oh, that's just a picture from the photo. You can see. And here's the thing. We can just bring this back up again and say there's the if you could see right there, there's the kind of the berm being put around, I guess, to capture anything that might be around that little island right there. And here's the interesting thing, because you brought up crawfish specifically. That's not what's killing the crawfish season right now, or potentially threatening the crawfish season. What's threatening the crawfish season right now is the fact that there are people who can't get the people who are owning these companies that get crawfish and hire people to peel them can't get people the visas that they need to get for those people to peel the crawfish so that they can, I guess, bundle them up and freeze them and ship them off places or anyway. So that's the problem with the crawfish going on right now. And when it came to like Deepwater Horizon, whatever, I was less worried about the livelihood of the people than of the fact that the Deepwater Horizon explosion that took place in the Gulf of Mexico killed people on top of it. And that, but again, in order to get conservatives caring about something, they don't care about loss of life as long as it happens outside of the uterus. They only care about they care about loss of life there, supposedly, but they don't care about loss of life when it's outside the uterus. They care about money, though, and if you hit them in the pocketbooks, then they're really going to complain about that. So, I mean, yeah, sure. I mean, it's the people that are, having the oil on these, oyster beds or whatever. Yeah, it's terrible. It's horrible for them. And I guess that if you're not going to see the shrimp as well, then that's going to be a problem. But yeah, thank you for bringing that to my attention. We'll have to keep a close eye on that. Maybe we'll cover it a little bit more tomorrow on tomorrow's show, simply because of the fact that, again, we can't, I don't trust that this administration, both statewide and federal, are going to have adequate responses as needed to. Again, because we allow too few regulations. There's another radio show host, I don't really play much on the show, whatever, but he hates it when the trial attorneys go after the big oil industries because we're built on oil and you can't harm our oil industry. Meanwhile, our fishermen get screwed over by these policies that whatever. What the hell am I seeing? Are you having a lot of... Wait, what? What am I missing? Are you lot having a swing? Wait, Steve, what are you saying? I have no idea what you're saying, Steve. I have no idea. Oh, did I scroll down too much? I don't know. I'm very confused. And they're not crawdads, Jeff. They're crawfish. And they're not crayfish neither. Anyway, yeah, thank you for not calling it the Gulf of... I will absolutely... It's not even dead naming the Gulf of Mexico, because the real name is the Gulf of Mexico. Fuck anybody who says otherwise. The only thing that I appreciate the fact is that someone in wrestling, they have a white wrestler dressed up in a mask called El Grande Americano. And when they introduced him, he says, "Now coming from the Gulf of America." And I was like, that is the perfect use of that, is to use it to mock this idea that somebody's from the Gulf of Mexico or around there, whatever. But yes, in all other forms, I will absolutely say Gulf of Mexico, because that's what it fucking is. So, but anyway, Hal was talking there. I've been wanting to make a video, a more produced video. I guess here comes, Dan. Someone said that Dan's all AI or whatever. I'm not all AI, but I do have some AI that I utilize. And what I love about the AI platform is that even though this character that is me doesn't look like me, the character from the Liberal Dan video I can use the same description and I get the same looking person, which is amazing. Anyway, so Hal was talking about AI a little bit today. And one of the things that I've been talking about, I've mentioned this on the show in passing a couple of times, is simply the fact that the issues that I have with, a lot of the issues that people have with AI are more issues with capitalism overall and how anything capitalistic operates. So, what am I missing in chat? I am missing a whole bunch of stuff in chat. Maybe I misinterpreted Aaron's comments wrong. When Aaron said, "I think we're all tops here, Susie," I completely thought of something completely different than maybe what was intended. That show you where my mind is. Oh my. Anyway, so and I don't think we're going to go to the phone line. I think we're going to play this and we're going to head out because I have some stuff to do tonight. But yeah, Susie says, "Oh my, indeed, yes." Wow. My mind completely went there. Maybe that's another sign that shows that I should end the show or whatever. But let's go ahead and we'll reopen this one again. And this is my new video, again, talking about, I have another series that I've started off. It's kind of like a Liberal Dan Radio Investigates or whatever. And it's, and again, you can see this one looks almost like pretty much the same thing as the guy sitting at the desk. In the Liberal Dan theme song. Trusted every game. Save it for Liberal Dan After Dark. Anyway, so here is this video basically talking about how our problems with AI mostly. Now, I know there are some AI, copyright issues that people raise issues with, and I didn't deal with that in this particular video. I more dealt with the whole idea of, and it kind of brings in my support for UBI. It kind of brings in my support for higher regulations on not just AI firms, but any other firm that wants to open up a plant that's big. You'll see what it says. Here we go. Another AI special from Liberal Dan Radio. Talk from the left. That's right.
Picture this. Every time a new technology shows up, we act like it's the villain in the story, when really, it's just the latest actor reading from a very old script. Today, that actor is AI. People worry about jobs disappearing, massive corporate control, environmental strain from data centers, and a widening gap between those who benefit and those who get left behind. But if you zoom out, those aren't new problems. That's capitalism doing what capitalism has always done. Go back to industrialization. When factories replaced farms, entire classes of workers had to reinvent themselves. The same thing happened during modernization waves, from the assembly line to the internet age. Each leap forward created wealth, but it also displaced workers who suddenly had to learn new skills or fall behind. AI is just the newest wave in that long tide. The issue isn't that technology evolves, it's that the system around it doesn't protect people during the transition. We treat disruption like a personal failure instead of a structural inevitability. Then there's the environmental side. People point to AI data centers and say, look at all that power and water consumption. And they're right to be concerned. But again, this isn't unique. Steel plants, chemical factories, massive logistics hubs, all of them have historically consumed enormous resources. The difference? We've normalized those industries over time. AI just feels new, so the spotlight is brighter. So how do we fix it? First, we stop pretending job displacement is optional. It's not. If technology keeps advancing, workers will keep needing to adapt. That's exactly why policies like universal basic income matter. A financial floor gives people breathing room to retrain, relocate, or rethink their role in the economy without falling into crisis. Second, we address resource consumption at the source. If large corporations want to run energy-hungry operations, they should be required to offset that demand by investing in renewable energy. Solar, wind, and other clean sources shouldn't be side projects, they should be part of the cost of doing business. Finally, we rethink power itself. When a handful of companies control transformative technology, the risks multiply. Stronger regulations and broader access can help ensure AI benefits more than just the top tier. AI isn't the disease, it's a symptom. And if we treat the underlying system instead of just the latest technology, we might finally start solving the real problem. If you enjoyed this video,
Hal did the same thing earlier today. Sorry about that. And here he goes. Here's screen of muted. But yeah. So Susie Ann, I don't like muted Dan. I don't like being muted either. Sorry about that. Can you imagine what would happen if Biden had muted himself?
Had Biden done it, MAGA would flip. Had Biden done it, whole numbers would flip. Had Biden done it, that screen foul play. But Trump did it, so it must be okay.
Anyway, point being, I'm going to post that and some other things up there, and I don't even remember at this point what the point was. Oh, I was responding to Trusted Every Game. My only problem with UBI is that people advocating for it wanted to replace all existing social programs with a single monthly payment. That is, by definition, an upward transfer of wealth. If you just add it on top, I'm on board. I'm not where you're complaining about, but I'm also not exactly where, I think maybe it's not completely everything on top. Like, I don't think it should replace, Medicare, Medicaid, VA, like healthcare benefits. Like there should be there should be a minimum healthcare policy at least. Everybody should be able to get, universal healthcare, Medicare for all, Medicaid for all, whatever you want to call it. That should be available for people. And you should also have a UBI. You should also, I don't necessarily think there's an issue with, maybe you can, lump food stamps in with it, but that has to be part of the calculation as well. Like if you're going to eliminate the food stamp program and instead include it as part of UBI, you can't be like, oh, well, we're going to give this UBI and just ignore the food stamp part. It has to be part of the overall cost of living that calculates that. And then you'd have to adjust the tax rate to be able to say, okay, well, if you get enough income based on your family size, then you do have to pay a little bit more in taxes. So at some point, yes, you're getting UBI, but in reality, you're not having the net effect of it, at least net effect of it on your personal income, because it's going to be offset by your taxes that have been increased to help pay for that. But, still, it's going to help everybody. I mean, all food stamps are at this point is a handout to, a lot of people that are on food stamps have to work with one particular place. Like all the people that work on Walmart, if you're on food stamps, the way that they work they probably are going to make sure that you also do your shopping at Walmart. So the food stamps go into Walmart and help Walmart out anyway, right? But if you had a universal basic income, you wouldn't necessarily have to settle for the low wages that Walmart wants to pay. So you have to make sure that's taken care of, right? And then if you're on if you're paying into Social Security, that should be something that's on top of universal basic income. If you have disability, not just not just Social Security for the people who are old and retired, but if you also have disability payments. If you have disability, you should have disability on top of the UBI, etc. Because the UBI is meant to help you just basically survive. But if you have disabilities, you need more to survive. So therefore, you need additional padding on top of it or whatever. Lather, rinse, repeat. But then you have to make sure that the rich people actually pay their taxes. Bezos and Musk have to go from paying no taxes to a tax, exactly. And if you want to live in the greatest country on the planet, as conservatives like to tell you at least, you should have to pay for the benefit of living in the greatest country. If you want to earn your billions and billions of dollars while working for the greatest company on the planet, or country on the planet, I should say, you should then have to pay that. And if you're paid a stock as a wage, you should be taxed on those stock benefits that you get. Based off of this, you should be taxed on the worth of the stock that you generate. And you shouldn't be able to just get your stock options and then only pay out, only considered to have them be profit when you cash out, and then be able to use your stocks as collateral to be able to fund loans so that you're getting loan money in to be able to pay that. No, if you're being paid a stock, you should have to get the same amount of whatever money it would cost to pay the taxes on that stock for your income. You should have to pay that automatically. And now it can be paid for you by the company that you're working for, but it still should be paid into the government. And then, depending on what your gains are, it should then, tax you that way as well. So, anyway. And maybe I might not have that 100% correct as to how, stock, stock options work, or how, when you get paid into stock, how that works. Maybe I don't have it 100% right. I'm not a financial expert on all of those things. So maybe I could look into some of that more. And maybe if I'm wrong on a little bit of it, let me know. Email me, liberaldanradio@gmail.com, and tell me where exactly got it wrong, and I'll edit my site. Because unlike conservatives, if I'm showing that I'm wrong, I'm willing to change my worldview to make it a more correct one. Anyway, so yeah, we're not gonna open the phone lines today, unfortunately, because they're almost 10:30, and I really do feel like getting some stuff done tonight before I go to sleep. So I do, let's see, the power consumed by AI to do 1-minute video is equivalent to running the stove for 1 hour. But the thing is that, again, the companies that are doing AI should have to do that. It should have to invest in solar and windmills and alternative, depending on where they're located, they should have to invest in those sort of things. And they should, and not just for themselves, but to add energy to the grid. So perhaps not only do they have a net zero impact on the overall power grid, maybe as part of the cost of doing business, they actually contribute more to the power grid to make a bigger power supply that's more cheaply done. right? I mean, it sounds reasonable, at least to me. Maybe it doesn't sound reasonable to conservatives, but at least it sounds reasonable to me. But then again, Donald Trump did talk today again about how he hates, he does not want to see windmills. He does not want to see anything about new windmills being built in America while he's still
A
president.
modern Don Quixote, he hates the windmills, claiming to protect the birds and whales he says they kill. But don't believe that story, it's really just a shill. He just did not want to see them while golfing on Scottish hills.
And so someone says, Orb Boomer says, just buy the hot fireman calendar and get it over with. If y'all talked more about hot firemen, you'd probably get my wife in the chat more. Just saying that. Yes, Don Quixote. That's why we have on store.liberaldanradio.com, which is pinned to in the top of the chat. That's why we have here the man of La Maga. Because he hates windmills. And actually, on the shirt it says, I hate windmills. So the man of La Maga, right here, available on the Liberal Dan Radio store, which is, again, pinned on top of both chats. And you have the Al Gore Needs More Rhythm. You have the FDT. You have the FDT cup. You have basically a QR code shirt that was requested by the mods. You have the Melt Ice shirt. And then, of course, you have the brand new Canada's 11th province shirt that I made the image during last show, and now we have the United States of Canada, Canada's 11th province shirt available on the Liberal Dan Radio store page, liberaldanradio-store.fourthwall.com. So there you go. That's see, you were putting too much faith in rich people to do the right thing, Epstein Files. I mean, you're right. I don't have any faith in rich people to do the right thing. Aaron, I have still not found my trackball. I don't know how I'm going to work tomorrow, as my trackpad only works randomly. Well, you might have to run out to like Walgreens or something and go get one real quick, I guess. And maybe the Walgreens or some other local store has something that's open. I don't know, or maybe open in the morning. But I really hate it when I lose my balls.
Oh my.
Anyway, on that note, we will bid you adieu. We are going to end the show, and we will be back here tomorrow on the 19th, Thursday, 8 p.m. Central, here on liberaldanradio.com or twitch.liberaldanradio.com for more talk from left. That's right. Thank you also very much for joining us on this Wednesday, the least attended show of the week of Liberal Dan Radio. Hopefully we'll get those numbers up soon. Appreciate those of you who were watching Boston Brian who came over at the end. If you haven't smashed that like button, make sure to smash the like button, and then the patriarchy. Make sure to help out the algorithm, because Al Gore needs more rhythm. Until tomorrow, thank you all very much. Have a good one. Peace. One thing real quick before we end the show, I do have one more thing I want to add. Sorry about that. Has anybody else found the Sparklerverse song to be a really, really, really bad earworm? Like, I had that song in my head all night, and I had to start thinking of that last song to get it out of my head, because it's that catchy. It's in my head. It was in my head all the live long day. All the live long day, the Sparklerverse song was in my head. So maybe I created a monster with that one. But anyway, I just wanted to let y'all know that, just be careful with that song, because apparently it's catchy enough that I was in my head all night, too. I was waking up and I still had the damn song in my head. So, maybe it'll catch on. Maybe that's a good thing. Maybe it'll catch on and people want to play it all the time and go to the YouTube channel and listen to the Sparklerverse song. Who knows? But anyway, I forgot to bring that up earlier, so I'm bringing it up now. Anyway, thank you all very much. Again, have a good one. Peace.
He said nobody who healthcare could be so complicated. The Obamacare debate was 6 months litigated. Years of med school debt got capitalized. secret. We knew. He said people don't realize Obama deported, but the porter-in-chief is what La Raza retorted. Obama went after the violent folks and felons, Trump nabbed the dishwashers and people picking melons. But Obama's argument shows that he's not very bright. If Obama made some wrongs, two wrongs don't make a right. Everybody knew, the whole world knew. Univision, AP, the fact check crew. Oh, acting all surprised that the sky is blue. It wasn't another secret. We knew. He asked who knew a virus could be so contagious. Virologists blinked at someone so outrageous. He was surprised at how many countries existed. No wonder when the virus spread, he the one who missed it. Spread a map, slit red in every deadly hue. World Health Memo said we already knew. Everybody knew. Oh, the whole world knew. Oh, the lab coats, the leaders, and we were with the flu. Oh, the nations of the world, more than 192. It wasn't a big secret. We knew. You unveiled oxygen like contraband air. Like 60. You sat down, claiming to discover chairs. War called money was his big surprise. Iraq has oil, can you believe your eyes? He said, we are divided, a surprise to no one thinking. And he was most surprised a Republican was Lincoln. Everybody knew, the whole world knew. The Christians, the Muslims, atheists, and the Jews. Like being shot, they have animals at the zoo. It wasn't a big secret. We knew. Everybody knew. Everybody knew. Everybody knew. Everybody knew.
Obama and Bush's pictures got hidden, obscuring the past, history rewritten. Hung in a hallway where no tour can see, confirming his unending fragility. If Trump can't see it, you must not exist. That also includes the Epstein list. Object permanent, a milestone missed. If Trump can't see it, it must not exist. The testing was the line that he said. Hundreds of thousands needlessly dead. Now HHS is run by brainworm quack, hiding the truth behind his back. If Trump can't see it, it must not exist. That also includes the Epstein list. An administration run by narcissists. If Trump can't see it, it must not exist. Of documents stacked floor to the wall, top secret folders in a bathroom stall. Charges were pressed, but the case was dropped. A corrupt judicial system he can co-opt. If Trump can't see it, it must not exist. That also includes the Epstein list. He'll swear it's fake news, a liberal twist. If Trump can't see it, it must not exist. rappers, downtown tents lining the street. Invisible people that power won't be. Hide them away so the cameras can't find the proof of a system that's cold and unkind. Of chaos in secret and NDA signing, a legal bribe. Michael Cohen fine. Trump got fined too over his gag order, but she didn't gag cause he was much shorter. Did you catch it? It must not exist. That also includes the Epstein list. We can't let him win, we must resist. If Trump can't see it, it must not exist.
They wrote it in the laws, ink still bleeds. Treating women like soil, just planting seeds. She's gone, brain dead, not even awake. But the state's got a claim, gonna plant its stake. Say it's God's will, say it's life they protect. But they ain't the ones feeling pain or neglect. From Texas to Georgia, they set the trap. Rights roll back while they smile and clap. Gilead's here, this is true. Hey, MAGA fools, they'll come for you too. So I'm gonna jet, see you later. I'm not gonna be a baby incubator. This ain't pro-life, it's control and shame. They don't care if she's gone, just playing a game. Keep her hooked to machines, cold and still. Just a vessel to them, not a human with will. No consent, no voice, no chance to resist. Just laws in place, written with a clenched fist. Hospitals scared, judges playing God. Bodies ain't temples, just stay on pods. Gilead's here, this is true. Hey, MAGA fools, they'll come for you too. So I'm gonna jet, see you later. I'm not gonna be a baby incubator. Bands in the dark, they don't care who it kills. Sacking courts while they strip out all of your wills. But we'll fight back, march loud, burn bright. Cause this ain't the end, it's the start of the fight. Gilead's here, ain't no grace. And those leopards are coming to eat your face. So I'm gonna jet, see you later. I'm not gonna be a baby incubator. Not gonna be a baby incubator. Not gonna be a baby incubator.
The creative director at WGSO had a little something he thought you should know. When Dan picked on his bits, Steve got real gruff. So Steve called Dan a flake, called him liberal dandruff. Steve thinks that his lines are really clever, but when do people ever like him? Never. Liberal Dan's got better lyrics, this is true. Listen and you'll feel like I do. Liberal Dan, his show is great. Liberal Dan, he goes live at 8. Liberal Dan radio, it's the best, cause Liberal Dan's head and shoulders above the rest. Steve's about to find out his mistake. In this feud, Dan's Kendrick, Steve is Drake. Dan might not be the world's best singer, but he's got more talent in his little finger. Steve thinks that his lines are really clever, but when do people ever like him? Never. Liberal Dan's got better lyrics, this is true. Listen and you'll feel like I do. Liberal Dan, his show is great. Liberal Dan, he goes live at 8. Liberal Dan radio, it's the best, cause Liberal Dan's head and shoulders above the rest.